Chapter 1075. The expressions of several people suddenly became a little tense, but they immediately relaxed because it was not a secret. Among the outsiders recently, 8 out of 10 came for this treasure map. Seeing their expressions, Yi Shiwen knew that he had guessed correctly. He continued to ask, "Since you are here for this treasure map, do you know what the treasure mentioned in this treasure map is?" Jian Wushuang shook his head and said, "We are not very clear about the specifics. It may be a relic left by the experts who entered the blood world a long time ago. It is said that it may be related to the legendary Blood Alliance." Blood Alliance? Yi Shiwen asked curiously. He did not know about this name. This Blood Alliance is a very ancient organization. It is even older than the time when our flourished Cloud Sea region joined the Blood World Trial. So it is normal that you don't know. Jian Wushuang was startled and immediately said with a smile, "A long time ago, there was a very terrifying behemoth-like organization in the Blood World. You should know that after entering the Blood World, if you can't leave within 3 years, then you will stay here forever." Jian Wushuang asked. Yi Shiwen nodded and immediately reacted. "Then you mean this Blood Alliance and—" Jian Wushuang nodded. "Yes, this Blood Alliance is an organization established by those who stayed in the Blood World to prolong their lives. These people should have died one by one in hundreds of years, but I don't know what method they used to make them, who should have died, live until the next opening of the Blood World. Although they couldn't leave the Blood World, they also became the masters of the Blood World. At that time, all those who entered the Blood World had to live under their despotic power and tremble." Yi Shiwen listened quietly. Although it was only a few words, he could feel the boundless despair. A blood curtain descended and enveloped the entire Blood World. Although he had never seen the members of the Blood Alliance, he could totally imagine that this organization was definitely not just a self-help organization. Those who were locked in the Blood World, unable to get out in this lifetime, and constantly faced the threat of death. These people who survived in such a situation were almost no different from lunatics. No matter how one looked at it, an organization formed by such a group of lunatics or psychopaths would not be a peaceful, harmonious, and friendly organization. Gradually, more and more people were forced to stay in the Blood World. In the end, when all the sea areas were about to give up on the Blood World, they suddenly declined and disappeared overnight. That's why they didn't cause a huge disaster," Jian Wushuang said. Yi Shiwen nodded. Those who could enter this place were all top elites without exception. These people had experienced hundreds of years. So, it could be said that they had an overwhelming advantage in the face of the experts of the younger generation after hundreds of years. It was as if Yi Shiwen was facing himself from hundreds of years ago. He didn't even need to fight. His imposing aura alone was enough to shock him to death. Although it was in the Blood World, with the talents of these young experts, there were probably experts who had surpassed the Law Phase realm. With such strength, it was not surprising that they could rule the entire Blood World in the past. However, there were also many hidden problems. For example, how did they survive? Once they were assimilated into the Blood World and became the creatures of the Blood World, they would die of old age at a speed that was dozens of times faster than usual. Basically, they would die before the next opening of the Blood World. So, many people had never seen these people. They only heard about the existence of these people from their elders. They knew that some people didn't leave the Blood World and became like this. It was precisely because of this that people were even more curious about how they managed to survive and why they had fallen overnight. These were all questions that made people curious. If it was just a ruin left by the predecessors, Yi Shiwen wouldn't even look at it. He would leave on the spot. After all, even the experts from tens of thousands or hundreds of thousands of years ago were at most similar to them now. There was nothing to see at all. However, if it was the Blood Alliance, then it was different. Not to mention how powerful the geniuses in the Blood Alliance who had lived for many years would become. Besides, the fact that Blood Alliance had managed to survive was itself a question that piqued their curiosity. And this time, although there is no news about the treasure map, there is indeed news that it may be a base of the Blood Alliance. Jian Wushuang said, "If that's the case, then we can't not go and take a look." Yi Shiwen's eyes lit up and said, "Since you are a friend of Jian Wushuang, then you are also our friend. If you also plan to explore that base, then you can ask us for it." Gao Xian said. Yi Shiwen nodded. He didn't think that there was anything wrong with it. He looked at Yi Qianqian again. If there were so many people, then protecting Yi Qianqian wouldn't be a problem. If it was really not possible, then she could be kept in the Tianyuan mirror. After getting along with her for such a long time, Yi Shiwen had gradually started to trust Yi Qianqian. He believed in his own judgment. Moreover, even Yi Mo, an old ghost who had lived for God knows how many years, also said that she was trustworthy. Then, there was nothing to worry about. Even if there was something wrong, they could easily destroy it. So, there was nothing to be afraid of. But even so, no one was in a hurry to rush out. Instead, they quietly waited in an inn, waiting for the location of the treasure map to be found by someone. Yi Shiwen increasingly felt that this matter was not simple. But regardless of whether there was someone behind the scenes or not, there were more and more experts in Xinyang City now. So, it was only a matter of time before they were found. Since someone was willing to do it for them, everyone naturally wasn't so nervous. And time also passed while they were waiting. Another half a month had passed. More and more experts came to Xinyang City because of the treasure map. And those experts who had arrived earlier were getting more and more impatient, because even if they had the treasure map, there was no way to find the location of the treasure map. At this time, everyone had become competitors. Many people were very interested in the legendary existence of the Blood Union. Although the Blood Union had been destroyed for many years, but these days, the legend of the Blood Union had begun to gradually revive along with the spread of the treasure map. Many people had begun to become interested in who could establish such a terrifying organization in the Blood World. All of them were heaven's proud sons and daughters. Each of them was fearless and lawless. At this time, they wanted to find the base of the Blood Union by themselves, and then monopolize all the benefits. Perhaps their cultivation would also improve by leaps and bounds when that time came. At this time, only they were on the same side. Other people were competitors, or even enemies. Even the internal conflicts of the major sea regions had begun. After all, although they could be regarded as members of the same country in the Blood World, but outside the Blood World, they were competitors. Moreover, they were the fiercest competitors. Even the competition between the major forces of the major sea regions had become a mess. Many people seemed to have found some clues, but they were found dead on the spot the next day. This further aggravated the chaos in the Xinyang City. Yi Shiwen and others could only wait quietly, lurk, and practice at this time, because there were too many strong people in the Xinyang City at this time. It was not suitable for them to stand out. Not to mention other things, just the experts of Law Manifestation Realm had appeared. In addition to the high-level leaders of the Xinyang Sea region, the high-level leaders of several other large sea regions had also appeared. This had made the atmosphere of the entire Xinyang City tense all of a sudden. Many people suddenly found that they didn't know who to trust. It seemed that they couldn't trust anyone. Everything had become muddled for the sake of the Blood Union's base. It seemed as if there was a big hand behind them stirring up everything, making the water in the pool become muddy. Yi Shiwen and others were aware of this. However, the others were not fools. Not to mention that all the people here were elites. How many of them were fools? Many people had also seen this unusual place. However, even if they knew that the wisest way was to leave the Xinyang City. No matter what kind of conspiracy or crafty plot was involved, it would be impossible to plot against them. However, whether it was the human race or the sea race, greed was their nature. They knew that there might be danger, but they couldn't let go of the Blood Union's base and the many treasures inside it. Therefore, even though they knew that there might be a force manipulating everything, no one chose to leave. Perhaps they were too confident that their own forces could crush all conspiracies and crafty plots. These people were Heaven's Pride experts. If they didn't even have this much self-confidence, then they wouldn't have been able to reach where they were today. This was a world where the strong got stronger and the weak got weaker. If they wanted to climb up and climb above everyone's head, then they might have died long ago if they didn't have the confidence to fight for their lives. All of this, even Yi Shiwen was no exception. Yi Xuan rarely suppressed the existence of this desire, because this desire and obsession itself was the only driving force for him to become stronger. It might also be the only goal in the future. However, he was more rational. He believed in his own strength. Even if a Transcendence Realm expert attacked him, as long as he wasn't seriously injured from the sneak attack, he would be able to escape. If he thought it was a matter of life and death, he wouldn't take the risk easily. Yi Xuan wasn't the only one. Other people were also like this. It was just that some people overestimated themselves, and some people were estimating their own strength just right. Just when these people began to get a little impatient, and some impatient people were already preparing to leave, the news about the hidden treasure finally spread. Chapter 1076. Someone found the entrance to a base in a mountain range. It was extremely old and had been sealed by a powerful formation. As soon as the news spread, it shocked the entire Xinyang city. It's finally here? I've been holding it in for so long. I hope it's true. Otherwise, I'll strangle the guy who spread the rumor. The Blood Alliance's base is mine. As the news spread, experts from all walks of life in Xinyang City rushed to the mountain range where the base's entrance was rumored to be found. Naturally, this included Yi Xuan and the others. Although there weren't many people in this team, no one would think of finding trouble with them after seeing their valiant strength. After spending some time together, Yi Xuan also discovered that Unparalleled Sword's friends were relatively easy to get along with. They did not put on airs and did not look down on Yi Xuan because he was only in the Transcendent Realm 9th level. Unparalleled Sword didn't seem to have the intention to explain for Yi Xuan either. They didn't seem to know how much strength Yi Xuan had now. In their opinion, Yi Xuan was just an ordinary Transcendent Realm 9th level. They were only willing to accept him because of his friends in the flourished Cloud Sea region, where Yi Xuan used to be. Yi Xuan did not say anything in this regard. These things were not important to him at all. On the contrary, everyone's friendship was more genuine because of this. It was not just because of Unparalleled Sword. Big sister, don't worry. When we enter the base, Cici will protect you. Miao Cici still liked to pester Yi Qianqian. Even if Yi Qianqian had a distant expression most of the time, Miao Cici did not mind. Although Miao Cici was a few hundred years old, she still behaved like a 10-year-old girl. She did not know why, but she liked this beautiful big sister. These days, Yi Qianqian's attitude had softened a little. She only smiled slightly and nodded, looking indifferent. Don't worry, there shouldn't be many opponents in the base this time. Unless those few law manifestation experts attack us, there's nothing to be afraid of, Saika Yin said confidently. We should be able to obtain a lot of treasures in the Blood Alliance's base this time. Whoever dares to compete with us is seeking death. Although Saika Yin looked handsome and even a little feminine, he appeared unusually heroic at this time. Yi Xuan nodded. Even without considering his hidden strength, this team was still very powerful. Unless they encountered those law manifestation realm masters, there would generally not be any difficult situation to deal with. As everyone approached the mountain range, they found more and more experts gathered together. Those who could head to the mountain range to search for the Blood Alliance's base at this time were very confident. Their strength was superb. Even if it was a Transcendent Realm 9th level warrior, they could contend with and even kill a half-step law manifestation realm initial warrior. Geniuses like Jian Wushuang and young Master Sea Dragon were the same. The others were experts above half-step manifestation realm initial. With these geniuses gathered here, it was a feast for the eyes. Some of them even had the strength of half-step law phase late stage. They formed teams of 2s and 3s, and they were not much weaker than Yi Xuan's team. They were the leaders of many medium-sized sea regions, and every one of them was a rare genius. Although there was a difference in the strength of these people, it was because of the unfair distribution of resources in the past. In terms of talent, no one was stronger than the other. Other than a few monstrous geniuses, there was not much difference in the rest. In this blood world, one could encounter a fortuitous encounter at any time to reverse the situation. So a momentary difference didn't mean anything. Yi Xuan secretly marveled. These experts were more terrifying than the other. In the flourished Cloud Sea region, Crown Prince Crocodile was already astonishingly strong. However, compared with these people in front of him, he seemed to be inferior. Even if Crown Prince Crocodile was not dead, he would be at half-step manifestation realm initial at most at this time. At most, he would be at half-step manifestation realm intermediate. Compared with these ruthless experts at half-step manifestation realm peak late, there was a huge gap. Many people were like Yi Shiwen and the others when they were in the profound Yang City. They were hiding in the inns and had restrained their aura. So, no one knew their strength. However, many people couldn't hold back when they saw the appearance of the Blood Union's base at this time. So, they came out one after another. This created an illusion that there were many experts here. Not only Xinyang Sea region, but many experts from other sea regions and other cities also came over. In the distance, Yi Shiwen also saw a few small groups. They were very tyrannical. They were in groups of 2 or 3. They were all half-step manifestation realm late experts. These people were extremely arrogant and didn't interact with others at all. With their strength, 2 of them joined forces to fight against dozens of half-step manifestation realm intermediate experts. They were all outstanding and ruthless characters. The experts from Xinyang Sea region are here, someone shouted. Suddenly, the entire crowd in the air was stirred up. As the ruler of Xinyang City, Xinyang Sea region was also one of the few powerful forces in the large sea regions. At this time, their appearance suddenly caused a commotion in the crowd. However, they saw dozens of people directly stepping on streams of light and flying over the crowd. The vast momentum was far beyond everyone's imagination. The leader was a young expert in a purple robe. He was in high spirits and had an extraordinary bearing. Soon, someone recognized him. This was the city lord of Xinyang City, Gongsun Juanhao. He was another terrifying figure. It was said that he had entered the law manifestation realm a long time ago. Yi Shiwen looked over. Sure enough, Gongsun Juanhao's body was surging with a different fluctuation of qi from the others. It was unlike these half-step manifestation realm experts. It was the qi fluctuation of a true law manifestation realm expert. Among the younger generation experts, there was actually someone who could enter the law manifestation realm at such a young age. It had to be said that the Endless Sea region was really full of experts. If it was in the true martial domain, it would be unimaginable. Even Big Brother Huang Wuji and the others would not be much stronger than these people in the Endless Sea region. They were the top geniuses. Any sea region in the Endless Sea region was probably as big as the true martial domain. Naturally, the experts in a small place like the true martial domain could not be compared to them. In addition to Gongsun Juanhao, behind him, there were more than a dozen half-step manifestation realm experts in the late stage and more half-step manifestation realm experts in the middle stage. The strength and foundation of a large sea region were fully reflected at this moment. One must know that Sky Thunder Sea region could be considered as the top among the medium-sized sea regions. However, it only had Hao Tsang, a half-step manifestation realm expert. In the Endless Sea region, although there were only a few levels of sea regions, the difference in strength between each level of sea region was not 1 or 2 times, but 10 times or even dozens of times. In addition to the 4 super sea regions, these large sea regions were the lords and overlords of the Endless Sea region. The group of people from the Xinyang Sea region quickly disappeared in front of everyone. Their escape light was even faster. Everyone was not willing to be outdone. They all rode on the escape light and followed closely behind. In less than a quarter of an hour, everyone had arrived at the mountain range where the base was rumored to be. Boom! 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 Loud explosions came from inside the mountain range. After a while, there was news that the experts from the 4 large sea regions had arrived one step ahead of everyone and opened the seal of the base. When everyone heard this, they immediately became anxious and rushed forward. Although it was a good thing that the experts from the large sea regions opened the seal first, it also meant that they were lagging behind the experts from the large sea regions. If they were too far behind, they might not even be able to pick up the leftovers, which would really be a waste of their efforts. Thinking of this, everyone's escape light sped up a bit and immediately arrived at the huge hole that had been blasted open. The hole seemed to be filled with terrifying miasma because of the countless years of closure. This miasma looked inconspicuous, but if an ordinary metal or stone was thrown into it, it would not take long for it to melt into liquid. But at this time, everyone did not care so much. They all displayed their own magical powers. Some propped up their own protective cover, while others put their celestial devices on top of their heads. Innately, they were invincible. These were all outstanding experts from various clans, each with their own means. It was unknown how many cave mansions they had explored, so it could be said that they were already rich in experience. "Let's go, let's rush in," Jian Wushuang shouted, and directly rushed in like a sharp sword. The sword chi on his body directly split the miasma in half and dissipated instantly, unable to get close to them. Yi Shiwen and others also followed behind Jian Wushuang. With the protection of Jian Wushuang's sword chi, they did not open their own protective covers. Yi Shiwen did not care. Even if the miasma covered his body, it could not break the defense of his tyrant body and hurt his body. Everyone rushed into the cave, and everything in front of them suddenly turned dark. They saw that the cave was pitch black. There was no light at all. It was like a huge black hole. Even if light entered, it would not be able to escape the fate of being sucked in. Everyone had to move their real vitality to their eyes to barely see the situation in the cave. But when they saw the situation in the cave clearly, they were suddenly a little dumbfounded. Chapter 1077. In front of them was an extremely spacious underground hall. The entire hall was hundreds of meters high and thousands of kilometers in length and width. However, this was not a problem. The real problem was that at the other end of this hall, there were hundreds and thousands of uncountable forks. There were thousands of entrances in thousands of kilometers, and no one knew where they led to. Everyone was a little dumbfounded. There were thousands of entrances. Which one should they go? Which one was right? Everyone murmured in their hearts. They were very clear that not all of these thousands of forks would lead to the base. It would be extremely amazing if only 1/10 of the forks led to the base. In other words, the remaining 9 out of 10 would most likely lead to a dead end. This was also a very common way to avoid enemy attacks. Just these many forks were enough to make everyone confused. Unless the people of the Blood Union came back to life, otherwise, it would be impossible to figure out whether these forks were safe or not. According to this estimation, among these people, perhaps less than half of them would be able to reach the base through the passage. This was undoubtedly a very terrifying proportion. And at this time, a burly man took the lead and shouted, "I don't care. If you want to be wishy-washy here, then do as you please. I only know that if we don't go in, those benefits will be taken away by the experts of the 4 major sea regions. We will have come here in vain." After saying that, this person only slightly identified the forks, then immediately chose a path and rushed in. Seeing this burly man's words, everyone suddenly became a little excited. At this time, there were more and more voices behind them. More and more people rushed in from outside the mountain range. At this time, it was a good thing to be ahead of anyone. Many people immediately did not think too much. One after another, they chose a fork and rushed in. If they knew that this place would be so troublesome before coming here, perhaps many of them would not have come. However, things had already come to this point. Many of them had also wasted so much time and energy for this. They were simply reluctant to give up. Yi Shiwen and the others looked at each other and found the same meaning in each other's eyes. That was to rush in. We have already come here. We can't retreat. Miao Sisi opened her mouth and said at this time. This made Yi Shiwen somewhat surprised. Miao Sisi looked a bit weak, but she was an out-and-out heroine. Gao Xian nodded and said, "Sisi is right. Since we are already here, we have to try our best no matter what. I have no objections. I'll go if you guys go." Saiku Hao agreed. "Let's go then," Jian Wushuang said after a moment of silence. "All right." Yi Shiwen opened his mouth and said. He alone represented himself and Yi Qianqian. At this time, Yi Qianqian naturally wouldn't oppose. Everyone immediately took the lead and leaped out. Yi Shiwen was the fastest. He took Yi Qianqian with him and directly pointed to a path and said, "This path go." His speed suddenly became so fast. At this time, several people were somewhat surprised, because among these people, except for Yi Qianqian, it seemed that his strength was the lowest. How could such a person with such low strength be so fast? Could it be that this was his specialty? However, at this time, everyone was a little hesitant. Although they had decided to rush in, they also had to choose a good path. Otherwise, if they dived headfirst into a dead end, it would really be a dead end. Even if they could retreat in one piece, it would also waste a lot of time. Now, wasn't time what everyone was fighting for? If they were left behind by too much, they might not be able to eat the leftovers when the time came. That would be miserable. Although they had a good relationship with Yi Shiwen during this period of time, it was only because he was Jian Wushuang's friend. It was not because they recognized his strength. While they were still hesitating, Jian Wushuang did not have any hesitation and followed them. Because among these people, he was the only one who knew that Yi Shiwen's strength was far more than what it seemed on the surface. Since Yi Shiwen had chosen this path, there must be a reason, and it would not be a random choice. Although Gao Xian and the other two were still hesitating at this time, seeing that Jian Wushuang had already taken the lead, they naturally could not fall behind. At this time, they could only grit their teeth and follow. In just a moment, everyone had already rushed into the entire cave fork for a long distance. Yi Shiwen also slowed down to let Jian Wushuang and the others catch up. "Why did you choose this path?" Jian Wushuang asked. Several people behind him also stared at Yi Shiwen with burning eyes. Although they had a good relationship with Yi Shiwen, if Yi Shiwen could not come up with a convincing reason, they were afraid that they would turn around and leave on the spot. That's because this road is filled with life energy. Many of these roads are filled with deathly energy. I don't know how many people have died here, but this road is relatively weak, so the probability of this road being the road to survival is relatively high. Yi Shiwen indifferently said, "When all living creatures were alive, they would have a qi of qi. The more vigorous the qi of qi, the stronger the person was. Once this person's qi weakened, it meant that this person was sick or injured. And those dead things would also have a strong death qi. The more dead things there were, the more abundant the death qi would be. For many warriors, learning to look at qi was also a basic method to distinguish the strength of a person. The more tyrannical a person was, the more tyrannical his qi would be, which would make people shudder when they looked at it from afar. Everyone suddenly realized that it seemed to be the case. They could also distinguish qi of qi from death qi, but at that moment, they did not react for a while. Not only did Yi Shiwen react, but he was also able to accurately choose such a path. Sure enough, he had some skills. Coupled with the speed that Yi Shiwen had shown before, it also made them have a new feeling of respect for him. Sure enough, he had some skills. The way everyone looked at Yi Shiwen suddenly changed. Not only because he was Jian Wushuang's friend, but also because he might be a reliable helper. Although it was also possible that the death qi was not strong because fewer people chose this path, so fewer people died, but in general, it was much more reliable than blindly choosing a path. Suddenly, a strange laughter suddenly sounded in the passage. Everyone's hearts suddenly became vigilant, and they all propped up their own protective shields. Whoosh! A bloody light lit up in the darkness, and a bloody figure rushed towards Yi Shiwen, who was at the forefront, and it was also laughing strangely. Yi Shiwen did not look at it, and directly stretched out his hands. Both of his hands glowed with a golden light, and instantly penetrated the bloody light, and directly grabbed the monster's neck. At this time, everyone finally saw what kind of creature it was. It was a creature that looked like a human with 4 limbs. However, its entire body was blood red, unlike those blood fiends that looked blood red. Instead, it had no skin at all, and its flesh was completely exposed. It was a creature that was dripping with blood. They could only see that its ferocious face looked even more ferocious because Yi Shiwen was grabbing its neck. The pair of bloody fangs looked even more terrifying, and those terrifying fangs could probably easily bite an ordinary metal into pieces. "This is a blood demon." Gao Xian immediately recognized them and said, It is said that when the Blood Alliance was at its peak, they used some kind of secret technique to raise a batch of blood-colored humanoid monsters to fight for them. They conquered one sea region after another and made it their territory. They enslaved the geniuses and experts there. I thought that with the fall of the Blood Alliance, these blood demons should have been wiped out. Why are we still seeing these blood demons now? Yishuin nodded. During this time, he had collected a lot of various information and news about the Blood Alliance, and he naturally heard about this blood demon. It was a terrifying creature that the Blood Alliance used some unknown secret method to feed. These blood demons did not have much intelligence and only knew how to kill. They were kept in captivity by the Blood Alliance, and their existence was like a thug. However, these blood demons were kept in captivity, so they had no way to hunt for food on their own. Moreover, these blood demons were not divided into male and female. No one knew what secret method was used to feed them. Strictly speaking, they were not living creatures at all, and they could not reproduce. Logically speaking, after the destruction of the Blood Alliance for so many years, even if these blood demons had lived for a long time, they should have been destroyed long ago. Could it be that these blood demons mutated? Did they gain the ability to reproduce? However, at this time, everyone had no time to think about these things. At this time, pairs of blood-red eyes had already stared at them. One after another, blood demons appeared in front of everyone. It was unknown whether there were hundreds or thousands of them. Yishuin casually crushed a blood demon in his hand, and immediately materialized a long sword condensed from sword intent. He instantly pounced and rushed into the blood demons. Poochie! 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 Yishuin's sword light was extremely fast. Wherever it passed, the blood demons could only clutch their necks and watch as blood spurted out. They died immediately. There was no other way. At this time, apart from Yao Cece, who had to take care of Yi Qianqian and did not go far, everyone else rushed into the blood demon horde. Most of these blood demons were only in the Transcendent Realm 9th level realm. They were not enough to pose much of a threat to everyone. Whoosh! Sequoian shot another arrow, nailing a blood demon to the ground. Seeing the blood demon rolling on the ground in pain, a smug smile appeared on his face. What's wrong? Do blood demons feel pain too? Chapter 1078. Ha! Siko Hao laughed loudly. In midair, his hands were constantly in the posture of pulling a bow and shooting arrows. Each arrow shot would nail a blood demon to death on the spot. The others were also slaughtering crazily. Although there were many blood demons, their strength was far from being a match for them. They could not pose too much of a problem to these people at all. In other words, they could not stop these people's advancement at all. Whoosh! 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 The sword aura in Yishuin's hand directly swept up. The blood demons that pounced on him could not stop his footsteps at all. Although they were all in the Transcendent Realm 9th level realm, those blood demons were no match for Yishuin at all. They couldn't even withstand a single move from Yishuin. They were easily slaughtered by Yishuin like ants. They had no power to fight back at all. Such efficiency was not slow compared to them. At this time, Gao Xian and the others were also impressed by Yishuin. Although he was at the Transcendent Realm 9th level, he was obviously not an ordinary Transcendent Realm 9th level expert. He was like those geniuses who could contend with half-step law manifestation initial Transcendent Realm 9th level experts. At this time, everyone seemed to understand why a steady person like Jian Wushuang would actually agree to join Yishuin. As for them, they didn't really know Yishuin. They just took Yishuin with them for Jian Wushuang's sake. However, at this time, only Jian Wushuang knew that Yishuin's strength was far more than that. Half a year ago, when he had just entered the blood world, he could already slaughter experts at the early stage of the half-step law manifestation realm. After half a year, his strength was much more tyrannical than before. How could he still be at the same level as half a year ago? This was the real reason why Jian Wushuang brought Yishuin along. In his opinion, Yishuin would not become a burden to them. Sure enough, Yishuin's strength was far more tyrannical than before. These Transcendent Realm 9th level blood demons could not even withstand a single move from him. The half-step law manifestation leaders mixed among these blood demons could not stop the slaughter of these ferocious beings at all. They were directly beheaded. Roar! A sharp roar came from the darkness. A tall, blood-red figure pounced on Jian Wushuang, who was at the forefront of the group. His claws tore through the sky, and his blood chi vibrated violently. Jian Wushuang was shocked. This was another powerful big guy. Judging from his cultivation, he should have reached the peak of the half-step to the late stage of the law manifestation realm, which was not much lower than these people. Human. That was exactly what the big guy was mumbling. It seemed to have some intelligence, which was different from the other blood demons that only knew how to kill. Jian Wushuang suddenly waved his long sword, and a sharp sword chi slashed out. Clang! The terrifying sword chi instantly clashed with a pair of claw shadows. The pair of claw shadows directly tore apart the sword chi and was about to pounce on Jian Wushuang. Jian Wushuang also frowned. This blood demon was much more powerful than the others. At this time, Yishuan finally made his move. Clang! The sword light was like a dream. It instantly formed a sword net and completely enveloped Jian Wushuang. Boom! Yishuan directly repelled the bloody claws of the blood shadow. So fast! Miao Sisi and others looked at Yishuan in surprise. The blood demon's movement was so fast that they had no time to rescue Jian Wushuang. Although Jian Wushuang would not be killed by this attack, it was a very terrible thing to be injured in such a place. Who knew that at this time, Yishuan, who was next to Jian Wushuang, made a move and saved Jian Wushuang. His speed was extremely fast. Most importantly, he could repel this attack. At this time, if everyone still could not see that Yishuan was hiding his strength, they would be too blind. At this time, they suddenly remembered that when Jian Wushuang introduced Yishuan, he said that Yishuan was the #1 among the younger generation in the flourished Cloud Sea region, but almost no one believed it at the time. Many people thought that Jian Wushuang was being modest. In a small sea region like the flourished Cloud Sea region, it was already rare to have someone like Jian Wushuang. At this time, they heard that Jian Wushuang was not the #1 among the younger generation, but Yishuan. Moreover, Yishuan was only a transcendent realm 9th level warrior. How could they believe it? Or, in their opinion, it was because Jian Wushuang did not fight with him. Jian Wushuang also said that it was a pity that he did not have the chance to fight with Yishuan. In their opinion, if Jian Wushuang fought with Yishuan, Yishuan would not be his opponent. This was inevitable, but now it seemed that it was not what they thought at all. Jian Wushuang was right. The Yishuan in front of them was extraordinary. Even if they had not seen each other for more than half a year, his strength did not decrease, but increased instead. Yishuan did not know the surprise in everyone's heart at this time. He just used his sword to deflect the attack of the pair of bloody claws. But before he could take a breath, the bloody claws directly grabbed him. This pair of bloody claws only left a bloody afterimage in the sky. In an instant, it had already rushed in front of Yishuan. Yishuan did not panic at all. He just casually swept the iron sword in his hand, but it instantly swept away the pair of extremely fast bloody claws. The blood demon was blocked by Yishuan's sword aura. This time, it was not a hasty interception like before. Blood splattered immediately. These blood demons were born without skin. They looked abnormally ferocious, as if a person's skin was peeled off. It made people's scalp tingle. But at this time, the sword aura on the pair of bloody claws swept away a large part of the flesh. The white bones were almost visible. Trap him, don't let him escape. At this time, Jian Wushuang also joined the battle group. There was almost no hesitation. He could not let this blood demon escape. Now he was not thinking about whether he could defeat this blood demon. With so many people with the battle strength of half-step to law manifestation realm late stage, if they were defeated by this blood demon, then they really deserved to die. The only thing he thought about now was to not let this blood demon escape. Don't worry, he can't escape. Yishuan sneered. The iron sword crossed the sky, and his body followed the sword. He was like a ghost in the space, and in an instant, he had already fought in front of this blood demon. There was a bit of fear on this blood demon's face. He did not expect Yi Shiwen's counterattack to come so quickly. If his attack was a bit of a sneak attack, then Yi Shiwen's attack was a pure frontal surprise attack. But what was more terrifying was that Yi Shiwen's frontal surprise attack was actually faster than his sneak attack. The sword aura directly cut a large piece of flesh from his body. If he had not dodged fast enough, then Yi Shiwen's sword would have pierced through him. Even if Yi Shiwen did not unfold the demon wings, in terms of speed, he was still firmly suppressing this blood demon. However, he was not so lucky. Although he dodged Yi Shiwen's attack, Jian Wushuang's sword aura immediately slashed down. Jian Wushuang, who had been waiting for a long time, attacked with an indomitable will. Although it could not be said to be more exquisite than Yi Shiwen's swordsmanship, it was different from Yi Shiwen, who was a half-baked warrior. He was a pure sword cultivator. With a sword in hand, he could control the world. Compared to Yi Shiwen, who did not use his full strength, he was probably even stronger. In this respect, Yi Shiwen could not compare with Jian Wushuang, but he did not mean to compare. Compared with a pure sword cultivator like Jian Wushuang, he was just using all the advantageous martial arts. Bang! Jian Wushuang's sword aura smashed into his body, directly injuring the blood demon, and the terrifying force directly blasted him away. Although this blood demon was not very intelligent, he also understood that this time he might have encountered a group of opponents that he could not deal with at all. "Where are you going?" Yi Shiwen sneered. A flame burned in his hand, and a massive saber qi instantly formed. It directly crossed the sky and slashed down. The saber aura cut the sky and instantly blasted into the body of the blood demon. Bang! The blood demon's body exploded on the spot. Blood splashed out, and it was directly chopped into pieces. Without the command of this blood demon commander, the remaining hundreds of blood demons finally could not suppress the fear in their hearts and fled one after another. However, no one was in the mood to chase after these hundreds of blood demons. For them, racing against time was much more important than anything else. These blood demons were not that important. "It seems that we have all underestimated Brother Yi," Gao Xian said with a wry smile and cupped his hands. It was not because of anything else, but because he had been reminding himself not to underestimate others. Otherwise, sooner or later, he would suffer a big loss. However, he still underestimated Yi Shiwen. Or it could be said that he did not expect that there would be such a monstrous existence like Yi Shiwen. Generally speaking, it was already very amazing to be able to challenge someone of a higher level. This was because those who could challenge someone of a higher level were not ordinary experts, but the top geniuses. In their opinion, this was simply impossible. However, after the fight just now, they found that Yi Shiwen's battle strength was at least at the level of half-step to Law Manifestation Realm late stage. At this time, they really regarded Yi Shiwen as a companion of the same level, not as simple as Jian Wushuang's friend. Yi Shiwen smiled indifferently. As long as he was strong enough, the opinions of others were not so important. "Why didn't you tell me that you are so powerful?" Miao Sisi looked at Yi Shiwen with dissatisfaction and said, "I thought you were weak, and I wanted to protect you." Yi Shiwen did not know whether to laugh or cry. Did he have to announce this to everyone? Well, now is not the time to talk about this. We have to catch up quickly. Jian Wushuang said. Yes, yes. Chapter 1079. This passage was neither long nor short. In addition to the blood demon, there were some other dangers, but it was nothing for Yi Shiwen and the others now. There were just some traps on the left and right. Yi Shiwen and the others quickly passed through the entire passage. Once they passed through the tunnel, what entered the group's eyes was an incredibly large underground world. Blood Alliance had gone through many years of activities before they managed to dig out such a large world underground. It could practically no longer be considered a base. It should be said that it was a small world. Yi Shiwen and the others weren't the first wave of experts to arrive. Countless experts had already poured in by the time they arrived. Some of them had even started to fight in order to snatch some rare herbs, treasures, and so on. After entering this place, everyone could no longer hold back. They began to fight frantically and plunder the wealth. No one knew how many years had passed since someone came here. It could be said that wealth was everywhere. There was wealth everywhere that made people envious. Suddenly, there was a commotion in front. A bloodstone mineral vein. These few words made everyone go crazy. What was the most important thing in the blood world? Naturally, it was the bloodstone. The bloodstone was the currency of the entire blood world. It could even be said that the value of the bloodstone would only be higher in the outside world. However, the bloodstone mineral vein was relatively rare, even in the entire blood realm. The blood chi was scattered throughout the entire sky. Although it had been eroding everything in the blood realm, there were few things that could attract the blood chi. It was not like the spiritual energy that could form mineral veins. It could only condense into bloodstones. Yi Shiwen looked around and saw a huge bloodstone mineral vein. He didn't know how many bloodstones were piled up on it. He also didn't know how many years had passed. Those bloodstones had also solidified together, forming a huge bloodstone mineral vein. These bloodstone mineral veins roughly looked more than 10 million bloodstone mineral veins. Although it was not too much, it was only the beginning of the exploration. So many bloodstones could be found. For these people, it was also a considerable wealth, especially for those transcendent realm 9th level warriors. They might only have hundreds of thousands of bloodstones. Suddenly, a bloodstone mineral vein of more than 10 million appeared in front of them. At this time, how could they miss it? Suddenly, hundreds of thousands of big hands grabbed out in the sky, all grabbing the bloodstone mineral vein. With so many people competing, only a few people could get it in the end. These people either grabbed millions of bloodstones or hundreds of thousands of bloodstones. The remaining part was divided equally by others. These were half-step law manifestation realm late experts. With them taking action, the others could only get some leftovers. This is only the periphery. There must be great wealth inside. Let's go, said Jian Wushuang. Without any hesitation, they followed into the depths of this microcosm. There must be benefits in the periphery, but it was only a little. Compared with the benefits inside, it was certainly not worth mentioning. They didn't see any late-stage transcendence realm experts. Only a few weaker ones were fighting with those people outside. Most of the experts were flying inside. At their level, they had a lot of wealth. Hundreds of thousands or millions of bloodstones would not stop their footsteps at all. Although this microcosm was only a microcosm, it was vast and boundless at a glance. As everyone approached the depths of the microcosm, many blood beasts and blood beasts began to appear intermittently. They were in groups, which was very terrifying. They encountered another group of blood beasts. To be precise, it was an army of blood beasts. They were completely different from the blood beasts in the passageway just now. Each of them was in the half-step law manifestation realm. No one knew whether there were thousands or tens of thousands of them. They surrounded everyone. If those transcendent realm 9th level warriors were here, even if they could contend with half-step law manifestation realm early experts, they would be annihilated in the face of such a terrifying number of blood beasts. These blood beasts had a pair of wings on their ribs. Each of them was more than 2 meters tall. Their skin seemed to have been peeled off. They advanced and retreated in an orderly manner. They were a well-trained army. Each of the blood demons possessed terrifying strength. Now, all of them were in a military formation surrounding Lin Fan. Why are these blood beasts so powerful? See how constantly opened his arms and shot chi arrows. Each arrow nailed a blood beast to the ground on the spot. However, he could still feel the true strength of these blood beasts. They were incomparable to those in the passageway. I'm afraid that these are the elite soldiers of the Blood Demon Legion, said Gao Xian, looking at the dense blood beasts in front of him. In the past, the blood beasts that the Blood Alliance relied on to dominate the world are also divided into several levels. The ones we encountered in the passageway are just small fries, not worth mentioning. These are the true elites. All of them are composed of half-step law manifestation realm experts. It is even said that there is a blood demon imperial guard that is truly terrifying. Any random soldier is in the law manifestation realm. Even we are no match for them. However, they were completely annihilated in that great turmoil. Everyone sucked in a breath of cold air when they heard it. The Blood Alliance's Imperial Guard was a little too terrifying, with law manifestation realm experts as mere soldiers. Even with their current strength, if they encountered a law manifestation realm expert, they could only flee. However, there was actually someone who could order them around like soldiers. This was undoubtedly beyond everyone's imagination. I don't know how those blood beasts were raised. They just feel a little weird. Meow Cece said with a frown and curled her small mouth. Everyone had the same feeling in their hearts. However, the Blood Alliance had already been annihilated in the dust of history. Even if they wanted to find out, they could not. In any case, we have to move forward. Let's kill this wave of blood beasts first, said Jian Wushuang. The long sword in his hand emitted a terrifying sword light, which directly cut several blood beasts in half. Although everyone was very strong, there was nothing they could do in the face of these endless blood demons. This was because these blood demons seemed to be controlled, and they rushed forward fearlessly. It was almost endless. At least, everyone seemed to be unable to see the end. Yi Shiwen also constantly operated the observing person scripture in his body. The power of stars in his body constantly splashed out and turned into stars, smashing into the blood beasts. Every time he punched, he could take away a large number of blood beast lives. These blood beasts that were killed by him would be blasted into blood mist on the spot, and then absorbed by Tianyuan Mirror in Yi Shiwen's body. Now, Tianyuan Mirror was at the most critical moment of upgrading to an Earth-level celestial device. It needed a lot of flesh and blood to replenish. For Yi Shiwen, these blood beasts were simply a great tonic that came to his door. It was just right. His shattering Stardust Fist paid particular attention to destruction and great destruction. It could destroy everything cleanly. Just a casual punch could clean up an area. These blood beasts did not have blood cores, but it did not prevent the huge amount of blood essence in their bodies from becoming a great tonic for Tianyuan Mirror. If one could see into Yi Shiwen's body at this time, one would definitely see a mirror floating up and down in it. The back of the mirror seemed to be depicting a hellish world. Countless demons were howling and killing in it. It was a living hell on earth. It seemed to be the situation of the ancient devil world. At that time, the devil world had no civilization. All the major races only knew how to kill. Tianyuan Mirror itself began to emit a bloody light, illuminating Yi Shiwen's entire Dantian. These blood beasts are very troublesome. I don't know how long it will take to kill them all. Yi Shiwen began to think. Although it was really cool to kill these blood demons, and Tianyuan Mirror could benefit a lot from it, it was obvious that compared with the things in the depths of this microcosm, these things were nothing. They must not be delayed by these blood demons. Thinking of this, Yi Shiwen did not care so much and immediately rushed directly into the group of blood beasts. When these blood beasts saw that Yi Shiwen actually dared to rush in, they suddenly rushed towards him with a strange cry and instantly drowned Yi Shiwen. Human, Tiske, I haven't eaten human flesh for a long time. It's a great tonic. The blood and chi of these human beings are extremely vigorous. They are all geniuses. As long as I can devour them, my strength will soar by hundreds of years. Not all of the blood beasts had no spiritual wisdom. There were some who obviously had some wisdom. They were all the leaders of the blood beasts. At this time, they began to become extremely excited. Yi Shiwen? At this time, everyone realized that Yi Shiwen had actually jumped into the group of blood beasts. Immediately, they became anxious. The struggle between quantity and quality had always been there. Strong quality could ignore quantity, but similarly, large quantity could also tear apart the side that had the advantage of quality. Although any one of them was much more powerful than these blood beasts, there were too many of these blood beasts. They did not know whether there were thousands or tens of thousands of blood beasts, which was much more than the number in the passage. If they were not divided and surrounded, they could still fight. But if they were surrounded by these blood beasts, it was almost a matter of survival. How could they not be anxious? Chapter 1080. From their point of view, there was nothing more thrilling than this. Yi Shiwen had actually rushed in. At this moment, They all had the urge to rush into the Blood Demon army and rescue Yi Shiwen. They had not yet been surrounded by the Blood Demon army. Basically, they were fighting and retreating at the same time to avoid being completely trapped. It's okay. Don't worry about him. He is confident. At this moment, Yi Qianqian spoke up. After spending some time with Yi Shiwen, she could be considered to have some understanding of Yi Shiwen. He would rarely do things that he was not sure of. Since he had chosen to crash into the Blood Demon army, he must have some confidence in himself. Yes. Jian Wushuang nodded. He had a lot of impressions of Yi Shiwen. Yi Shiwen was mysterious and powerful, but definitely not reckless and idiotic. Don't tell me he is going to kill the commander of the Blood Demon army, Miao Sisi suddenly said. Everyone was a little stunned, but after thinking about it carefully, it seemed that this was the highest possibility. If it were not for this idea, Yi Shiwen would not have rushed into the Blood Demon army. But can he succeed by doing this? It is not an easy task to kill the commander of the Blood Demon army in the midst of so many blood demons, Siko Yin said with some hesitation. Although he recognized Yi Shiwen's strength, for him, Yi Shiwen could only fight against experts of the half-step law manifestation realm. It was not easy to kill everyone in the Blood Demon army, let alone to kill the heavily protected commander of the Blood Demon army. Believe in him. He could do it, Yi Qianqian said. He is not a person who will stick to old rules. Everybody looked at each other in bewilderment, but they could not rush into the army of blood demons to rescue Yi Shiwen at this moment. Otherwise, not to mention rescuing Yi Shiwen, they might even be trapped in the army themselves. Yi Shiwen's figure shuttled through the crowd of blood demons. His speed was extremely fast, like a golden bolt of lightning. Sword chi was spewing out from all over his body. His entire person was like an ancient golden sword. Wherever he passed, the entire world would be torn apart. Not to mention those blood demons. They could not stop Yi Shiwen's footsteps at all. The surging vitality in his body had attracted the attention of countless blood demons. Although they were not as intelligent as the blood demon commanders, their instincts were telling them to invest in him. If they could devour Yi Shiwen, their cultivation would soar by leaps and bounds. They would have hundreds of years' worth of cultivation. In any case, Yi Shiwen had become a delicious piece of cake in their eyes, or rather, a great tonic. Yi Shiwen's chi and blood made him look like a giant light bulb of several kilowatts. Countless blood demons began to lunge at him. However, although they regarded Yi Shiwen as a tonic, they were also tonics in Yi Shiwen's eyes. Now that Yi Mo wanted to make a breakthrough and become an Earth-level celestial device, he needed a huge amount of flesh and blood. These blood demons and blood fiends happened to be the great tonic that came to his door. Tianyuan Mirror was only used for recovery. For example, if a person wanted to grow from a child to an adult, it would take at least 10 or 20 years. But if it was just to restore a weak adult to a healthy level, it would not take that long. It might only take a few days or even 10 days, which was far less than the time needed for a child to grow into an adult. Tianyuan Mirror was like an injured adult. Its own level had already reached a very high level. Now, what it needed was a lot of supplements. There would not be any bottlenecks in the realm. As long as it accumulated enough energy, it would be able to make continuous breakthroughs. It was even faster than Yi Shiwen's improvement speed. Yi Shiwen did not hesitate. His body constantly spewed out sword aura, which condensed into sword aura. These approaching blood demons were minced into pieces, and then they were swept away by Tianyuan Mirror. Even such a high frequency of killing awakened Yi Mo, who was silent in retreat. He thought that Yi Shiwen was doing something. But after knowing Yi Shiwen's plan, he didn't care about anything and continued to retreat directly. For him, these things did not mean to continue to pay attention to. Soon, Yi Shiwen encountered the first commander of this blood demon. Under the protection of layers of blood demons, the blood demon looked at Yi Shiwen with cruel eyes. This was a terrifying expert who had reached the peak of half-step law manifestation realm late. At this time, it looked at Yi Shiwen greedily. Behind it was like a small city. In the center of the city, there was a throne on the highest level. The entire small city was floating in the air, and it was filled with a lot of wealth that this blood demon commander had collected over the years. It was safer to put it in the army. If it could be raided here, then its wealth would be useless no matter where it was. He had long since noticed this hot-blooded human. It was just that the various commanders had an agreement that they would not snatch him from him. It was up to him to decide whose territory he would go to. He didn't expect that this brat would actually come to his territory. He immediately commanded the blood demons to surround and kill him. "Haha, kid, you are really courting death. I didn't expect that you would come to my territory. This is destined to be my fortune. I will swallow you alive and then increase my power for hundreds of years out of thin air. I will break into the law manifestation realm in one fell swoop," said the blood demon commander with a strange smile. This blood demon commander was rather intelligent. It was on a completely different level compared to the blood demon commander in the passageway. It might have some other fortune. This was not surprising. Even the most stupid clan would have one or two who had a fortuitous encounter. It was not too strange to have a fortune. "You want to treat me as your prey? It's just that I don't know who the real prey is." Yi Shiwen sneered. In his opinion, this blood demon commander was simply seeking its own death. Without saying a word, Yi Shiwen rushed directly into the blood demons. The blood demons tried to stop Yi Shiwen's footsteps, but how could they be Yi Shiwen's opponent? Yi Shiwen's divinity was like golden lightning, flashing directly. Every time it flickered, he would get closer to the blood demon commander. Clang! The sword light was unsheathed, directly beheading a half-step law manifestation realm late blood demon. This blood demon was obviously the best among the blood demon commander's subordinates, but it was not Yi Shiwen's opponent at all. It couldn't even block Yi Shiwen's sword. At this time, the blood demon commander finally began to take Yi Shiwen seriously. It had never seen such a ferocious expert. Yi Shiwen seemed to be just at the Transcendent Realm 9th level, but even the half-step law manifestation realm late expert was not his opponent. This was very terrifying. It seemed that Yi Shiwen was not an ordinary figure. At this time, it finally couldn't help but make a move. A terrifying blood claw tore through the sky, tearing towards Yi Shiwen's head. "You want to deal with me with such insignificant skills?" Yi Shiwen's sword stabbed out. It was fast and urgent, seemingly ordinary. However, it pierced through the sky in an instant, appearing in front of the blood claw. Yi Shiwen's speed was faster than Yi Shiwen's. Slash! Yi Shiwen's sword light directly tore a huge wound on the blood claw. Blood instantly splashed out, and the blood claw was almost chopped off by Yi Shiwen on the spot. The proud blood demon commander screamed again and again. Its terrifying face had turned completely hideous. It had been injured by Yi Shiwen. It didn't expect Yi Shiwen to be so ferocious that he could severely injure it. Just one slash made it completely understand that this human warrior who dared to rush into the blood demon horde was not a fool. He was truly skilled and courageous. Such a person was the most difficult to provoke. However, there was no other way at this time, because even if it wanted to retreat at this time, Yi Shiwen would not let it go. Almost at the moment when it withdrew its blood claw, Yi Shiwen's sword had already arrived. It fell on the body of the blood demon commander like lightning. Puff! The blood demon commander was immediately slashed in half. Blood splashed out, and then it was immediately absorbed by Tianyuan Mirror. It was killed by Yi Shiwen before it could react. The wealth in that small city also fell into Yi Shiwen's hands all at once. Yi Shiwen didn't have time to carefully count it. There were as many as 3 bloodstone veins of 10 million level. In other words, Yi Shiwen had an additional 30 million bloodstones. Yi Shiwen almost shouted excitedly to the sky. He had made a fortune. Even for him at present, 30 million was still a huge fortune. One must know that he only had 60 million bloodstones now. With the addition of these 30 million bloodstones, he would almost be able to break 100 million. In addition to these bloodstones, there were many special treasures that only grew in the blood realm. This was only one blood demon commander, and the other blood demon commanders weren't included. So, one could well imagine why Yi Shiwen was so excited. Without the command of this blood demon commander, the rest of the blood demons also fled in panic. They didn't dare to stop Yi Shiwen's footsteps at all. At this time, Jin Wushuang and the others were a little dumbfounded because they all saw a large part of the blood demon army suddenly collapse. In the eyes of these fearless blood demons, there was no fear at all. Under the suppression of the blood demon commander, they were like robots, rushing forward wave after wave. It was impossible for them to collapse. Then there was only one possibility. Yi Shiwen, who was in the blood demon army, had successfully killed a blood demon commander. This was the only possibility. Otherwise, how could those blood demons collapse? He really succeeded, Siko Hao said in disbelief. Chapter 1081. He really succeeded, Siko Hao said in disbelief. Among these people, he was the most shocked because he was the least convinced that Yi Shiwen could do it. Although he did not hate Yi Shiwen, and they were on good terms, it had nothing to do with whether he was confident in his strength or not. He was also very confident in himself. Many times, he was even called narcissistic by a few others. However, he was not sure that he could retreat unscathed from the blood demon army, let alone kill the blood demon commander. It was not because they were not as strong as the blood demon commander, but because the blood demon commander was surrounded by the blood demon army, which was protected by countless blood demon soldiers who knew when to advance and when to retreat. Under such circumstances, it was practically impossible for them to kill the blood demon commander. They might be exhausted to death before they could reach the blood demon commander. He was not like Yi Shiwen, who had the Phoenix regeneration technique to protect himself and could maintain his peak combat state at any time. Therefore, as long as he was not seriously injured at once, he was not afraid of being besieged at all. However, was there any blood demon that could seriously injure him at once? Absolutely not. Therefore, he was not afraid at all and directly rushed into the blood demon army. Yi Shiwen, who had obtained great benefits from the blood demon commander, immediately began to search for other blood demon commanders without any hesitation. When he just rushed in, he could feel that there was definitely more than one blood demon commander among them. The thoughts he sensed all proved this point. Moreover, only a part of the blood demon army had dispersed after Yi Shiwen had killed this blood demon commander. The vast majority of the blood demon army hadn't moved. This indicated that they belonged to other blood demon commanders. They didn't belong to the blood demon commander that he had killed. He immediately chased after the blood demon commander without any hesitation. He chased into the blood demon army and launched another massacre. Yi Shiwen's killing efficiency was terrifyingly high when he fully unleashed his strength. Wherever he went, blood flowed like a river. The blood demons were not his match at all. Whoosh! A bloody claw directly fell from the sky, trying to kill Yi Shiwen, who was moving at high speed. It was one of the blood demon commanders who did not like Yi Shiwen and directly attacked. Just nice, it saved me the trouble of finding it, Yi Shiwen sneered. Although he was very sensitive to auras, it was useless no matter how sensitive he was. In the midst of so many chaotic auras, it was not easy to judge, because the auras of these blood demons were almost the same, and there were too many of them. Right now, Yi Shiwen felt like a radar screen, densely packed with dots. It wasn't easy to find the hidden blood demon commander, but when the blood demon commander made a move, it was suddenly exposed. Xiao! Yi Shiwen's figure turned into a mass of golden light and disappeared. That bloody claw ripped open the place where Yi Shiwen had just been standing. Even several nearby blood demons were killed by the terrifying palm wind. Where did it go? In the depths of the blood demon horde, an incomparably powerful blood demon commander asked in confusion. This was an extremely muscular blood demon commander. Countless laws were exposed on his body, entangling with each other. However, when he had just reacted, a cold light fell from the sky, and an iron sword appeared in the void, directly piercing the head of this blood demon commander. Slash! When the iron sword tore through the sky, it made a sharp, piercing sound. Found you! The blood demon commander immediately felt a cold light sweep over his body. He was shocked and hurriedly condensed countless talismans, forming a huge wall of blood in the sky above him, which directly collided with the iron sword in the air. Bang! With a terrifying collision, the talismans that he condensed were smashed into pieces on the spot by the sword aura, unable to block Yi Shiwen's iron sword at all. Then, a terrifying force directly penetrated the top of his head. Boom! This blood demon commander's head exploded on the spot, and his spirit was smashed into pieces in an instant. Then his body, along with all the wealth in his small city, were collected by Yi Shiwen. The moment he made his move, he was locked on by Yi Shiwen. Therefore, he unleashed his speed to the extreme, and in an instant he had already pounced on the blood demon commander. That blood demon commander probably did not expect Yi Shiwen to have such terrifying speed, and he was killed before he could even react. From the moment he made his move to the moment he died at Yi Shiwen's hands, not even 10 breaths had passed. Everything seemed so terrifying. As soon as this blood demon commander died, large swathes of blood demons began to collapse, completely routed. At this time, everyone who was struggling to break away from the blood demon horde was stunned again. He killed another one. At this time, Si Kuoyan felt a little numb. Yi Shiwen's strength was really unbelievably strong, far beyond his imagination. Or could it be that he was very good at group battles? Otherwise, how could he be so terrifying, killing blood demon commanders one after another? Big Brother Yi is really amazing. Miao Sisi pouted, holding a giant sword that was even taller than her in her hands, and directly chopped a blood demon into pieces. If she was seen by Yi Shiwen at this time, she would probably not be able to escape the title of a violent Lolita. This giant sword that was even taller than her was waved in her hands as if it were weightless. Every slash of the sword could kill a large group of blood demons who were half a step into the transcendence realm. At this time, Gao Xian also nodded. No matter what method he used, whether it was a cheap trick or not, there was one thing that was true. Yi Shiwen's strength was indeed far beyond their imagination. Their previous estimation of Yi Shiwen now seemed to be a complete mistake and a joke. At this time, it was not that Yi Shiwen wanted to drag them down, but rather they faintly felt that they were dragging Yi Shiwen down. Jian Wushuang did not feel anything, but continued to kill blood demons in an attempt to share some of the pressure with Yi Shiwen. Among these people, Yi Qianqian seemed to be the most relaxed, because her strength was also the weakest. She was only in the legendary Great Perfection realm, and there was still a long way to go before she could reach the semi-sage realm, let alone fight against these blood demons who were half a step into the transcendence realm. Under the protection of the 4 people, she was the one with the highest priority. Her face was indifferent, as if the killing in front of her had nothing to do with her. Among the group of blood demons, Yi Shiwen began to count the harvest. This blood demon commander was obviously much stronger than the previous one, and it also had more wealth. There were 4 bloodstone mineral veins that were worth tens of millions, which meant about 40 million bloodstones. Obviously, this was not their accumulation. Perhaps it was the accumulation of countless generations of blood demon commanders, or even the wealth of the previous blood demon commander that they had killed. But now, all of this had become Yi Shiwen's property. Yi Shiwen's ferocity might have frightened these blood demon commanders, whose spiritual wisdom was far above that of an ordinary blood demon. They didn't dare to act blindly, without thinking. The 2 blood demon commanders who had been killed weren't their companions. They were their competitors. They didn't have any intention to avenge them. However, they did not want to attack, but it did not mean that Yi Shiwen intended to let them go. Yi Shiwen did not expect that these blood demon commanders would have so much wealth, and he did not know how many years they had accumulated it. If he killed all of them, he would become rich overnight. How could Yi Shiwen let go of such a good opportunity? Yi Shiwen continued to search among the blood demons, constantly killing them. Wherever he went, the blood demons would collapse. There was no existence that could stop him at all. Yi Shiwen was so terrifying when he went all out. The few people outside were also dumbfounded. Although they could not see the specific situation, they could still see the overall situation of the blood demon army collapsing. They could almost determine where Yi Shiwen had gone from the place where the blood demon army had collapsed. Seeing Yi Shiwen's bravery, the little bit of worry in their hearts was suddenly thrown away, and there was nothing to worry about. Everyone, come on! We have so many people. We can't be outdone by Yi Shiwen. At this time, Gao Xian roared and joined the battle again. With Yi Shiwen's efficiency of slaughtering, not to mention getting rid of the Blood Demon Legion, it was a bit unrealistic to annihilate the entire Blood Demon Legion. After all, with so many Blood Demons, it would be the most troublesome if they fled separately. Gao Xian might not be able to catch up with them at all. However, if it was only a single Blood Demon Legion, it would be possible for him to defeat it. Attack! This human actually wants to kill all of us. He's greedy like a snake trying to swallow an elephant. We must teach him a lesson. Yes, yes. If this person doesn't die, we won't be able to eat and sleep in peace. Even we may become the souls of the dead in his hands. And this person is so powerful. He has such terrifying combat power at the Transcendent Realm 9th level. In terms of talent, I have never seen such a terrifying person. If I can devour his flesh and blood, my cultivation will definitely skyrocket. At this time, there was a sudden increase in spiritual sense communication in the sky. It seemed that these Blood Demon commanders were about to attack. If they didn't, they might be defeated by Yi Shiwen one by one. By then, they would have nowhere to cry even if they wanted to. Whether it was for the sake of survival, or to devour Yi Shiwen, increase his power, and plunder his wealth, killing Yi Shiwen had become an inevitable thing. Attack! Set up the array! Chapter 1082. Go! Set up the formation! With a loud shout, a formation immediately enveloped Yi Shiwen. 5 powerful figures appeared beside Yi Shiwen. Each of them was an outstanding figure in the half-step Transcendence Realm. Each of them could easily defeat other half-step Transcendence Realm experts. At this time, they stood around Yi Shiwen, stimulated the Jin Yuan of their whole body, and brought out a big killing formation to completely envelop Yi Shiwen. This meant that they wanted to completely strangle Yi Shiwen inside. At this time, Yi Shiwen only felt that the wind was rising and the clouds were surging. Suddenly, everything around him turned blood red. He couldn't see anything else. Countless blood energies in the sky were being absorbed. Then, they turned into terrifying weapons and rushed towards Yi Shiwen. These arrays wanted to kill Yi Shiwen with the help of the power of heaven and earth. However, Yi Shiwen was not someone who would just sit and wait for death. He's dead now. When the time comes, he'll have to obediently become a piece of meat by my mouth. TSK, I want to eat his heart and liver. That's the most delicious part of a human body. These Blood Demon commanders saw that Yi Shiwen was enveloped by the formation and immediately revealed cruel expressions. In their opinion, Yi Shiwen was already dead. It was only a matter of time before he died. Therefore, at this time, they had already begun to discuss how to dismember Yi Shiwen's body. Oh no, Yi Shiwen is besieged, Miao Sisi shouted after slashing a blood demon away. Although the crowd could not see what was happening, they could at least feel the presence of Qi. The Blood Demon commanders who had been hiding all this time had unexpectedly all come out in one breath. Moreover, they were besieging Yi Shiwen. Everyone immediately became anxious. If it was a one-on-one fight, they would still be very confident in Yi Shiwen. Just like before, Yi Shiwen alone killed 2 Blood Demon armies and caused them to collapse. However, if 5 of them joined forces, it would be a different story. They could not judge Yi Shiwen by their previous assumptions. At this time, Gao Xian said, "We can't just stand by and watch. We have to save him." He looked at the others to see if they had any objections. "I have no objections. I don't have the tradition of abandoning my comrades." Si Kuoyan said, "Save him." Jian Wushuang said without hesitation. As for Yi Qianqian, no one paid attention to her. In their opinion, Yi Qianqian should be the first one to agree. In fact, Yi Qianqian didn't have any objection. "Kill!" They roared and charged into the army of the Blood Demon beasts. "Yi Shiwen, you must persist until we arrive." Although the danger of charging into the frenzied army of blood demons was self-evident, the few of them did not think too much and simply rushed in. "Want to kill me? Go to hell!" Yi Shiwen shouted loudly. At this time, Innumerable Jin Yuan crazily combusted from his body, and at the same time, innumerable spirit crystals in Tianyuan mirror were also combusted, and then instilled into Yi Shiwen's body to supplement the consumption of Jin Yuan. His movements were fast to the extreme. The long sword that he swung left behind a series of afterimages in the void. Every sword light could cut apart a blood-colored energy that was blasting towards him. At this moment, Yi Shiwen could no longer see heaven and earth. He couldn't see the things outside the great formation around him. He couldn't even see the 5 blood demons that were half a step into the law phase realm. But so what if he could not see them? Yi Shiwen did not care at all. As long as he tore this broken formation apart, everything would return to normal. Yi Shiwen was already almost invincible in the half-step transcendence realm. After combusting his Jin Yuan crazily, the combat power that erupted from him was simply terrifying. He drew out the earth-level longsword and instantly merged with the entire iron sword. He turned into a sword light and instantly flew into the sky. Boom! Yi Shiwen quickly hit the edge of the entire formation and was bounced back by the power of the formation. "Who are you? How dare you stop me?" Yi Shiwen shouted, and the long sword in his hand directly burst out a terrifying sword light. The sword light pierced through the sky and directly tore a huge crack in the formation. The situation outside suddenly fell into Yi Shiwen's eyes. It was no longer the original blood-red situation. Oh no! He is coming out. At this time, the few blood demon commanders shouted one after another. They discovered Yi Shiwen's unusual movement. In their opinion, this was incredible. Even a law manifestation master might find it difficult to break free from the great formation that they had set up. If it was an expert at the late stage of the half-step transcendence realm, it would be impossible to break free no matter how powerful he was. They relied on this set of formation to kill in all directions and annihilate more and more blood demon tribes, making them their own subordinates. However, they did not expect that Yi Shiwen's side would fail. Yi Shiwen actually killed his way out and tore a huge crack in the formation. Cover up the crack. The few blood demons began to pinch the law almost at the same time, gathering the blood chi between heaven and earth, and began to repair the entire crack in the entire formation. It's a little too late to repair it at this time. Accompanied by this cold voice, a figure instantly jumped out of the crack. The figure was like a sword light, directly pouncing in front of the nearest blood demon commander. The sword light flashed, cutting the vast sky. "No! How did you do it? This is impossible. I don't want to die." The blood demon commander was frightened. He did not expect that Yi Shiwen could come out. He was so frightened that he began to speak incoherently. Unfortunately, Yi Shiwen would not be polite to him. He directly slashed with his sword. Puff! A flower of blood flashed, and the blood demon commander was beheaded on the spot. Another group of blood demons completely collapsed. Without the control of the blood demon commander, these blood demons directly turned around and left. At this time, the other remaining blood demon commanders could do nothing. Although these blood demon commanders were allies when dealing with Yi Shiwen, they were basically the most direct competitors in normal times. Although these blood demon commanders marched together, in fact, they were the most guarded against each other and did not allow others to touch their subordinates. Therefore, at this time, these blood demons collapsed, and they could not do anything at all. Quickly stop him. I want him to die without a burial place." At this time, the blood demon commanders had no other choice but to mobilize their subordinates and began to encircle Yi Shiwen. They arranged their troops and approached Yi Shiwen in a marching formation. They wanted to strangle Yi Shiwen to death with the power of the array formation. Even a top master would be very helpless when facing such an army. There was no way to deal with it. The reason was very simple. Because there were too many of them, and they were different from ordinary scattered soldiers. They knew how to borrow the power of the array formation, and the array formation often borrowed the power of the heavenly way. It was equivalent to using the power of one person to fight against the power of the heavenly way. The result was obvious. One of the important reasons was that many masters had died in front of the array formation. However, These people obviously did not include Yi Shiwen. Yi Shiwen moved with his sword and quickly broke into the array formation. Wherever his sword light passed, the array formation collapsed one after another. There was no way to stop Yi Shiwen at all. Even they themselves did not understand why they collapsed. Yi Shiwen only used a sword and killed one person, and the array formation collapsed on the spot. Playing with this kind of array formation in front of me is really child's play. You are displaying your slight skill in front of an expert. Yi Shiwen sneered. He used to stay in the library of Yuan sect for a long time and read all kinds of military books. Many of them were written by military experts. During that time, Yi Shiwen almost read all the books in the library. Moreover, he did not just read them once. He also used the mysterious space to integrate all kinds of knowledge. It could be said that not only in military affairs, but also in politics, economy, and other aspects. He could be called a grandmaster in all aspects. These array formations were powerful, but in Yi Shiwen's eyes, they were full of flaws. He did not pay attention to them at all. It was not that he had not studied the array formations that were 100 or 1,000 times more complicated than this. He was absolutely clear about them. Although these blood demons had some spiritual wisdom, how could they be compared with the wisdom of human war? For him, these array formations were too rough. He could see the weaknesses and flaws at a glance. There was no problem at all. As long as he killed the most important person, then the entire array would immediately collapse. There was no possibility of any hindrance to Yi Shiwen. Although there were layers of array formations blocking him, for Yi Shiwen, it was just like walking on flat ground. In an instant, he completely broke through and rushed to the front of a blood demon commander. Puchi, the blood demon commander, was not a match for Yi Shiwen at all. He was beheaded on the spot and turned into a pool of blood. The Tianyuan mirror swept into it and took away all his wealth. Yi Shiwen's figure was extremely fast. He did not stop and began to rush towards the remaining 3 blood demon commanders. This man is cruel. We must join forces. Otherwise, we will be defeated by him one by one. At this time, one of the blood demon commanders roared. The other 2 blood demon commanders also agreed. The 3 blood demon commanders rushed towards Yi Shiwen. The 3 experts of half-step law phase late directly blasted out a mighty attack. The terrifying power vibrated in the attack and rushed towards Yi Shiwen. Just in time, Yi Shiwen laughed loudly. It was the best that they did not leave. Otherwise, he would have to chase and kill them one by one. That would be troublesome. 3 swords in one. Buried heaven's sword. Buried earth's sword. Buried person's sword. Yi Shiwen slashed out 3 terrifying sword lights. They instantly condensed into a huge Guangu sword and shot out. Boom! It was as if the sky was pierced through. All the attacks of the 3 blood demon commanders were completely broken. Their bodies were also screamed and twisted into pieces by the sword lights. Chapter 1083. These blood demon commanders at the peak of the half-step to law manifestation realm were killed by Yi Shiwen's sword in an instant. There was not the slightest chance of survival. Yi Shiwen's 3-in-1 move could be said to be incomparable to the previous one. After his upgrade and improvement, it had definitely reached the peak of the Earth rank. In other words, even a law manifestation realm expert could be killed with one blow, let alone these half-step to law manifestation realm blood demons. These blood demons were actually much weaker than warriors of the same level. Although they did not know how these blood demons were raised, their physical qualities were much stronger than warriors of the same level. However, it was only in terms of physical qualities. In terms of other comprehensive qualities, they were much worse than warriors of the same level. The biggest difference was that they did not know martial arts, but these warriors did. The martial arts that these warriors knew could stimulate their greatest advantage. Many of these blood demons only knew how to use their physical advantages, so they were not a match for warriors of the same level at all. The only thing they could rely on was their huge numbers. Even if these blood demon commanders had spiritual wisdom and knew some martial arts, there was no way they could compare with these geniuses. These people were heirs with tens of thousands of years, or even hundreds of thousands of years of heritage. The martial arts that they knew could be said to be diverse and powerful, far beyond ordinary people's imagination. This was also why, although Jian Wushuang and the others had a headache for these blood demons, it was only a headache. It was because these blood demons did not know martial arts, so they did not pose too much of a threat. As long as they were not surrounded, it was not a big deal at all. The greed of these blood demons finally met their end. They were directly killed by Yi Shiwen. Yi Shiwen did not change much. He just collected their wealth. At this time, Jian Wushuang and the others had just arrived. They were stunned to see the scene of Yi Shiwen killing 3 blood demon commanders at the peak of the half-step to Law Manifestation Realm with one move. For them, this was too shocking. Even if these blood demon commanders were weak, they were still at the peak of the half-step to Law Manifestation Realm. They were the best in this realm. How could 3 of them be killed with one move? Could this sword be his trump card? To think that it would be so powerful. Just thinking about it made everyone's scalp go numb. That sword chi overflowed in all directions, directly crushing countless blood chi, forming a majestic momentum. In particular, Jian Wushuang's eyes lit up. In his opinion, although Yi Shiwen was not a sword cultivator, his sword principle cultivation was far beyond that of the sword cultivators he knew. He felt that it was a pity. If such a talented person focused on cultivating the way of the sword, his future achievements would be limitless. He might even reach the legendary realm. However, what he didn't know was that Yi Shiwen possessed a mysterious space. He could deduce any martial technique inside it. Therefore, innate talent wasn't important to him. He could display amazing innate talent in Sword Dao, but he could also display amazing innate talent in Saber Dao, Boxing Dao, and other martial arts. This wasn't a problem for him. However, when he saw Yi Shiwen's sword move, he sighed slightly and realized something. Yi Shiwen counted the wealth he had seized. There were as many as 15 tens of millions of bloodstone mineral veins. In other words, as many as 150 million bloodstones were now in Yi Shiwen's hands. In addition to the 90 million bloodstones from before, Yi Shiwen now had 240 million bloodstones. Not to mention a large number of heaven and earth treasures that only grew in the blood world. Although Yi Shiwen didn't know the names of many of them, it didn't matter. There would always be people who knew. After all, the blood world had been open for countless years. The heaven and earth treasures that grew in the blood world had long been known to the outside world. When he roughly counted his wealth, he realized that Jian Wushuang and the others had already rushed to the vicinity of this place. Why did you guys rush in? Yi Shiwen asked curiously. He naturally dared to rush in because he was confident. Why did these people rush in together? I'm just worried that you'll be besieged by a few blood demon commanders. But from the looks of it, it doesn't seem necessary. Perhaps the blood demon commanders are nothing to you. Miao Sisi said with a pout. Yi Shiwen was startled. The situation just now seemed very dangerous from the outside. After all, being surrounded by 5 blood demon commanders at the peak of the late Law Manifestation Realm was very dangerous in the eyes of ordinary people. Suddenly, Yi Shiwen felt warm in his heart. Although he knew that it was very dangerous, but these people still rushed in to save him. Although this danger didn't exist for him, but he still felt grateful for their kindness. Yi Shiwen was a sentimental person. He would treat others how they treated him. Although he didn't say anything at this time, he had officially recognized these people in his heart, just like how he recognized Bai Hamo, Yao Qian, and others in the past. What was a friend? This was a friend. At the critical moment, they would come to save you regardless of any danger. That was a friend. These are the things I seized from these blood demon commanders. Divide them among yourselves. Yi Shiwen took out the bloodstones and heavenly treasures that he had seized from the body of the blood demon commander. For him, this meant that he had thoroughly recognized these people as his friends. What are you talking about? You risked your life and worked hard to seize these things. How can we divide them among ourselves? Gao Xian said, besides, there should be a lot of other wealth here. If we want it, we will naturally seize it ourselves. That's right, that's right. I am very proud. I will not lose to you. I will eliminate these evildoers myself. Saiku Yin nodded and said, "Yeah, didn't we come here to seize it ourselves? You should keep yours." Miao Sisi said. Although Jin Wushuang didn't say anything, he obviously had the same idea. Yi Qianqian didn't seem to care at all. At this time, Yi Xuan only smiled and said, "I was too reckless." "Huh, that's right. There are so many fortuitous encounters here. Why would I be afraid of not obtaining wealth?" Everyone nodded. They were all exceptionally proud and peerless geniuses. To be able to cultivate to such a level in such a short period of time, which one of them wasn't a genius. Naturally, they had their own pride. They would not allow this kind of activity that was akin to sharing the fruits of charity. As they said, if they wanted to obtain something, they should pursue it themselves. But if you didn't tell me, I wouldn't have known that these blood demon commanders had so much wealth on them. TSK. Just looking at it makes me green with envy, Saiku Yin said exaggeratedly. I originally thought that these blood demons were creatures without any intelligence, so it was impossible for them to accumulate any wealth. I didn't expect them to have so much. What's so strange about it? No matter what kind of race they are, no matter how intelligent they are, hoarding wealth is an instinct. It has nothing to do with race. It's just a difference in the amount of wealth. Gao Xian said, then I'm going to make a fortune. Saiku Yin immediately flew out and rushed towards the other blood demon armies. In this vast and boundless pocket world, there were definitely more than 1 or 2 blood demon armies or blood fiend tribes like this. At this time, in the eyes of these people, they had all become a moving treasury of wealth. However, they were only able to achieve this because of a terrifying freak like Yi Xuan. When other exploration teams encountered the blood demon army or the blood fiend tribe, apart from those who were lucky enough to discover them at the very beginning and avoid them, most of them ran into them head-on. Some of the more powerful experts were able to kill their way out, but most of them lost their lives and became the food of the blood demon army or the blood fiend army. At this time, many exploration teams had no choice but to join forces in 2s and 3s in order to break through this area, lest they were devoured by the blood demon armies or blood fiend tribes. Of course, there were also tyrannical teams like Yi Shiwen and the others who directly rushed in and killed the blood fiends or blood demon commanders. The rest of the blood fiends or blood demons collapsed on the spot. On the one hand, the crisis of being besieged was resolved. On the other hand, they also swept away a large amount of wealth. This also caused many people to join forces and start hunting the experts of the blood fiends and blood demon armies. This turned the situation upside down on the spot. The warriors of various clans who were aroused with greed suddenly became the hunters. The change in status happened in an instant. Before the experts of the blood fiends and blood demons figured out what was going on, nearly half of the blood fiends and blood demons had been annihilated. Yi Shiwen, Jin Wushuang, and the others were also mixed in with these people, constantly killing the leaders of the blood fiends and blood demons. However, Yi Shiwen did not rob all the leaders. Basically, everyone got 1 each. In this way, after slaughtering 5 or 6 blood demon armies or blood fiend tribes, Yi Shiwen's bloodstone soared to more than 200 million. With Yi Shiwen leading the way, everyone's hunting operation was very smooth. He had just killed the last blood demon commander when all the other blood demons began to disperse. They screamed and fled in all directions. However, before everyone could rejoice, they heard a cold voice coming from the sky. Jin Wushuang, TSK, I didn't expect to see you here. It seems that you have gained a lot. Chapter 1084. However, before everyone could rejoice, they heard a cold voice coming from the sky. Unparalleled sword. TSK, I didn't expect to see you here. It seems that you have gained a lot of things. Accompanied by this seemingly complimentary but actually sarcastic voice, a figure appeared in the air. It was a square-faced man in a yellow robe. He had a strong body and a somewhat fierce face. However, it was somewhat strange that there was a huge scar on his face, directly across from one side of his face to the other. The flesh inside was turned out, which looked unusually ferocious and terrifying. Yi Shiwen felt a little strange. He did not know what this person was going to do. In fact, at their level of cultivation, even if they did not have a divine skill like Phoenix regeneration technique to protect their body, it was not a problem to recover 1 or 2 scars. However, this person left this scar, which was a bit strange. Do you remember this scar? Unparalleled sword. The square-faced, yellow-robed man pointed at the long and narrow scar on his face like a centipede. 2 months have passed, but I still remember your sword move. TSK. It's really accurate. Just a little bit more, and my head would have been chopped into 2 halves by you. Although this person's words seemed very calm, but Yi Shiwen could feel that kind of cold, killing intention, which made people shudder with fear. Huang Weishan, how come it's you? Miao Cece exclaimed. She did not expect it to be this person in front of her. Miao Cece, TSK, you are still so beautiful. It doesn't matter. I will let you know what it means to live a life worse than death. I will kill you in the end. When I am tired of playing with you, I will squeeze your breasts. TSK, that feeling must be great. The square-faced man in a yellow robe, Huang Weishan, squinted his eyes and pretended to be intoxicated. However, with the centipede-like scar on his face, he looked even more ferocious. A look of disgust suddenly appeared on Miao Cece's face. Even Yi Qianqian's expression was somewhat disgusted. You pervert, Miao Cece said fiercely. Pervert, TSK. I like this name. Jie, introduce to me. Who is this beauty? At this moment, Huang Weishan's gaze landed on Yi Qianqian. His eyes were filled with lust as he sized her up from head to toe. It was as though he could strip her naked with just his gaze alone. She's actually a female slave with temperament. I like it. What I like the most is to train such a dignified woman into the most lascivious sex slave. Yi Qianqian listened to his words and revealed a look of disgust. If she was still in her peak condition, she would have killed this damned pervert long ago. Damn it, why is it this guy? I've encountered this guy again. Gao Xian's expression suddenly became dignified. It was obvious that Huang Weishan, who was standing in front of him, gave him a huge amount of pressure. His real yuan was unconsciously gushing out, as if he was facing an extremely dangerous poisonous snake. Huang Weishan, I think you've never changed. Haven't you suffered enough? How dare you come here alone? Have you forgotten what happened last time? Psycho Hao said in a loud voice. The sword on your head didn't take your life, so now you've come to die again. Psycho Hao could be said to be vicious as he pointed at Huang Weishan's huge scar. As expected, the muscles on Huang Weishan's face twitched. It was obvious that he was extremely angry. As a god's favored one, when had he ever been injured so badly? Moreover, it was a few people that he had never thought highly of. However, the result was that he was plotted against, and his head was almost cut in half. If he hadn't released the secret skill at all costs, he would have been dead by now. He had underestimated Jian Wushuang. Therefore, he wanted to keep this scar as a reminder of how he was injured and constantly remind himself to take revenge. Only by killing Jian Wushuang would he be able to erase this huge scar. TSK, do you think I came here alone? Huang Weishan sneered and said, Come out and let them see me. Haha, Huang Weishan, so you were injured by this sword cultivator? How useless. TSK, this is all you've got. However, he heard a wanton mocking laugh. A middle-aged man with a medium build walked out of the void. As soon as this middle-aged man appeared, he started to mock Huang Weishan without any scruples. How Honghua said it before, this was just an accident. Because of this accident, I was plotted against by this brat. Huang Weishan said angrily as he looked at the middle-aged man, How Honguang, with an unfriendly gaze. TSK, no matter what you say, you can't change the fact that your head was almost cut off by this brat. How Honguang continued to ridicule, as if he didn't care about Huang Weishan's threat. This time I'm going to twist off their heads and kick them like a ball. Huang Weishan said angrily. Old son, come out, there's no need to hide anymore. Huang Weishan said towards the void. After saying this, another terrifying expert appeared. This was a slightly skinny man. His face looked a bit old, and his expression was exceptionally cold. At this time, He was staring coldly at Yi Shiwen and the others. Gao Xian and the others were startled to see that there were still people hiding nearby. The most important thing was that they didn't even notice this. Whether it was Huang Weishan, Hao Hongguang, or Old Sun, none of them had noticed this. When Huang Weishan first appeared, it was still possible. However, they were too excited after the battle and did not notice him. After that, when they became vigilant, they still did not notice the existence of the two people. There was only one possibility. Their cultivation was far beyond their imagination. Just Huang Weishan alone had caused them a lot of trouble before, not to mention the two unknown and terrifying experts. At this time, Yi Shiwen also learned from Siko Yin what kind of grievances they had with Huang Weishan through secret voice sending. It all started a long time ago. At that time, they were still experts at half-step Transcendence Realm middle stage when they encountered Huang Weishan, an expert at half-step Transcendence Realm late stage. Huang Weishan fancied Miao Sisi and wanted to kidnap her, who knew that it would lead to strong resistance from the others. In the end, they went through a bloody battle, but they still couldn't defeat Huang Weishan. At this time, Jin Wushuang unexpectedly erupted and almost cut off Huang Weishan's head with a sword. However, that was something that happened a few months ago. Everyone originally thought that they wouldn't meet Huang Weishan again. Who would have thought that they would still meet Huang Weishan here? But that wasn't the main point. The main point was that Huang Weishan was actually much more terrifying than before. But then again, they thought that they were only in the half-step Transcendence Realm middle stage. Now they had stepped into the peak of half-step Transcendence Realm late stage. Not to mention Huang Weishan, who was already in the half-step Transcendence Realm late stage at that time. After a few months, it was hard to imagine how much stronger Huang Weishan had become. Moreover, he brought two teammates who seemed to be no weaker than him. They all had terrifying strength, so it was easy to imagine how much pressure they were under. If it was only Huang Weishan, they could still work together to kill him. Back then, there was a gap between their realms. But now, although there was still a gap in strength, the gap in realms had been closed. But with these two equally terrifying experts, it was easy to imagine that the odds of winning were not high. Huang Weishan, I don't care how you deal with them in the end, but I want half of their wealth. Hao Hongguang sneered and said. He didn't take Huang Weishan's threats seriously. He didn't care what Huang Weishan was thinking. Anyway, in his eyes, Yi Shiwen and the others were nothing more than a moving treasure trove. I want the remaining half, Old Sun said in a cold voice. Huang Weishan gritted his teeth, nodded and said, it's up to you. You can each take half of their wealth. This was the condition that he had promised them, and he didn't intend to go back on his word. Even if he did, these two people were not to be trifled with. This idea had just arisen in his mind, and then he extinguished it. If he really went back on his word, he would probably be hunted down by these two people like a dead dog. The three people seemed to regard Yi Shiwen and the others as dead people. They had actually divided their wealth in front of them, which was simply too much. But unexpectedly, Jin Wushuang and the others didn't refute them. They just looked at them coldly and even looked a little nervous. Gao Xian, I will take care of the rear. You are responsible for taking them away. The faster, the better. Jin Wushuang finally opened his mouth, but he wanted Gao Xian and the others to step back and let him take care of the rear. Jin Wushuang himself was a sword cultivator. Sword cultivators believed that as long as they had a sword in their hand, they would be able to break all laws with a single sword, and they would advance with indomitable will. But now, Jin Wushuang actually wanted them to retreat, which was obviously a very difficult decision for him. No, how can we leave you alone? At this time, Miao Sisi was the first to stand up and oppose. That's right. How can we leave you alone at this time? Siko Hao also shook his head and said, if you leave now, you will be the best help to me. Even if I am surrounded by them, I will be able to escape unscathed. Jin Wushuang said. Chapter 1085. Escape unscathed? Ha, that's funny. Do you really think you can escape unscathed from the three of us? Hao Hongguang laughed and said. It was as if he had seen the most ridiculous joke. Perhaps it was indeed a very ridiculous thing in his eyes. I can kill all of you by myself? How Hongwang sneered and did not take them seriously at all. Tisk TSK, you have gained a lot during this time. Just nice. All of them will become my trophies. Old Sun did not say anything, but his eyes were full of coldness. He did not take Jin Wushuang's words seriously. With the three of them here, if they let Jin Wushuang escape unscathed, they should really bang their heads against the wall and kill themselves. They all had such confidence and conceit. Not to mention letting Jin Wushuang escape unscathed. It would be the greatest shame for the three of them if they let him escape. I'll leave the others to you too. As for Jin Wushuang, I'll personally wring his neck. Huang Weishan smiled ferociously, and the muscles on his face twitched slightly. It doesn't matter. Anyway, it doesn't matter who I kill. Hao Hongwang said indifferently. They simply ignored Jin Wushuang and his companions. In other words, they did not take them seriously at all. They treated them as fish on the chopping board, ready to be slaughtered at any time. However, they could only remain silent because it was obvious that the strength of any one of these people was above theirs, let alone so many of them joining hands to defeat them. If it was just one of them, they were confident that they could kill him. Jin Wushuang, I've always remembered this sword attack. Do you see this scar? I never chose to remove it because I want to always remember how I got this scar. Huang Weishan stared at Jin Wushuang coldly, like a fierce beast that was about to devour someone. It's urgent now. You should leave quickly, or you won't be able to leave either. Jin Wushuang said calmly. His analysis was very accurate. The people in front of him were probably stronger than everyone else. It's impossible for us to leave you behind at this time. If worst comes to worst, we'll just have to fight. Even if you stay behind, you won't be a match for the three of them. It's impossible for you to drag them down. Instead of that, it's better for us to fight to the death. Killing one is worth it. Killing two is worth it. If we can kill all three of them, it'll be worth it. Gao Xian laughed and said. Yi Shiwen had a whole new level of respect for him. Usually, this ordinary-looking man always had a calm look on his face. It was rare for him to be so hot-blooded and impulsive. This team might not have a lot of people, and their strength might not be at the top, but their hearts were very united. This was a relatively rare sight in his many years of career. In the past, he had seen those temporary teams that were formed with ulterior motives and often plotted against each other. Not stabbing you in the back was already a good thing. It was no wonder that an arrogant lone wolf like Jin Wushuang was willing to join this team. It was really extraordinary. Why are you running? These people dare to covet our wealth. It seems that their luck has declined to the extreme. They are courting death. At this time, when everyone was in a panic, Yi Shiwen stepped forward and said, What, Yi Shiwen, you? Jin Wushuang was also slightly surprised. He didn't expect Yi Shiwen to think like this. Although the others were also shocked by Yi Shiwen's words, they just regarded it as Yi Shiwen's declaration of life and death struggle. Only Jin Wushuang was different. In his opinion, Yi Shiwen was not a person who would talk big. In other words, if he said something, he should make it come true. Jin Wushuang was secretly surprised. Could it be that he had underestimated him? Even with the tyrannical strength that Yi Shiwen had shown before, he might be able to compete with Huang Weishan. But now there were three of them here. Although the other two had not taken action yet, they were obviously not weaker than Huang Weishan. Otherwise, they would not be so fearless of Huang Weishan. Even if he risked his life to stop one, Yi Shiwen could stop one, but the remaining one wasn't someone that everyone could resist. This was also a very real problem. Although they had a lot of people, this kind of thing was obviously not something that could be solved with numbers. If it wasn't for his telepathic sword, perhaps everyone would have died in Huang Weishan's hands on the spot. Now, even he was not sure how much Huang Weishan had progressed. Those who could enter the blood world were the top geniuses of each sea region, and those who could enter the depths of the blood world were undoubtedly geniuses among geniuses. Huang Weishan was not stupid. On the contrary, he was a genius. Although it was only a few months, it was enough for him to grow to a very terrifying realm. Courting death? Ha! It's really funny. I have never met someone who dared to say that I am courting death. How Hongwang laughed and said, "Is this person's head caught in the door? Or is he stupid? He actually dares to talk to us like this." I think he is also scared out of his wits. Huang Weishan grinned and said, "Anyway, it doesn't make any difference. Whether he is stupid or has his head caught in the door, he can't escape the fate of death. Today, I will let him see whether my luck has declined to the extreme or not." Although Old Sun did not speak, his expression was also sneering. It seemed that he was also looking at this matter as a joke. In the face of these people's sarcasm, Yi Shiwen was not the slightest bit moved. He just said, "Who among you are going to die first? Or you can just come and meet together. Anyway, it's only a matter of time before you die." At this time, even Gao Xian and the others felt that Yi Shiwen seemed to be a bit arrogant. They felt that he was more stubborn than a dead duck. However, at this juncture, it was useless to be stubborn. The most important thing was to fight with all his might. "Boy, I changed my mind. I originally wanted to kill Jian Wushuang first, but I hate you even more. I hate people who are more arrogant than me the most." Huang Weishan coldly looked at Yi Shiwen and said, "This kind of people won't live for long, especially after meeting me. You're already dead. I'm going to twist your head off in front of them and see if you're an idiot who only knows how to joke around." As he spoke, he finally moved. Immediately, a big hand slapped towards Yi Shiwen. It turned into a big hand that covered the entire sky. It seemed as if it wanted to grab the entire sky with one hand and exploded. A terrifying aura filled the air. This palm seemed to be an ordinary grab. However, it contained the essence of martial arts. It locked the space around him from all directions, making it impossible for him to retreat. Finally, this palm would grab him and kill him. Yi Shiwen just sneered. Just when the big hand was about to grab Yi Shiwen's body and crush his body, he moved. A sword light burst out from his hand, cutting the vast sky. In an instant, it seemed as if it had split countless sword lights and directly stabbed towards the big hand. Puff! That big hand was cut into two halves by the sword light in the air. All of the martial arts attacks turned into powder in the face of Yi Shiwen's sword light and couldn't affect Yi Shiwen's body. Huang Weishan suddenly only felt that a sword chi went along the big hand and actually cut his body. His palm was almost cut by this sword chi, and if he had not reacted quickly, it would have been very difficult to save his arm. These sword chis were like maggots in the tarsal bone, directly sticking to him like a shadow, almost splitting his body into two halves. He was suddenly greatly surprised, and his original underestimation of Yi Shiwen also disappeared in an instant. Of course, it was impossible for him to survive until now and climb to the current high position. To say that he was a fool was certainly not. Although he was arrogant and did not take Yi Shiwen and the others seriously, he was absolutely not a fool. Since he knew that Yi Shiwen was not that simple, he naturally would not underestimate him. However, no matter how much he thought highly of Yi Shiwen, he would find that he still underestimated him. While Huang Weishan was still in a state of shock, Yi Shiwen had already moved. Yi Shiwen's body moved along with his sword. The long sword broke through the void, and Yi Shiwen's figure followed closely behind. Almost a moment later, he had already caught up with Huang Weishan. The sword light slashed out a dreadful waterfall in midair. It directly slashed the sky into two halves. Yi Shiwen's swordsmanship philosophy was vividly displayed. Chapter 1086. The old man's swordsmanship cultivation was unfathomable, and Yi Shiwen still couldn't catch up to him. However, the mysterious space was even more magical. Yi Shiwen was able to imitate a part of the swordsmanship just by looking at it once. Although it was only a small part of the essence, but for the current Yi Shiwen, it was already very profound. Damn it! Huang Weishan reacted almost immediately. What a fast speed. However, if that's all you've got, then you can go to hell. He was furious. He wasn't someone to be trifled with. He reacted almost immediately and slammed his palm down. The speed was also extremely fast. Unexpectedly, his palm arrived first and hit Yi Shiwen's sword light first. Immeasurable giant whale. His palm wind condensed into a huge, ferocious giant whale the size of a hill. Its huge tail directly smashed the vast sky and slammed on the sword light. Boom! This was yet another terrifying collision. At this moment, Huang Weishan seemed to have turned into a gigantic whale with boundless strength. Huang Weishan was not a human, but a member of the sea race. He possessed the bloodline of a gigantic whale in the sea, and was extremely tyrannical. You brat, although I don't know where you came from, you have successfully aroused my interest. You have also successfully enraged me. I will break your limbs bit by bit, and let you know not to offend me in your next life. Huang Weishan smashed the sword light with one blow. He was very proud, and looked at Yi Shiwen with a sneer. At this time, his feet stepped on the waves condensed in the void. His gaze was gloomy, and all the seawater rose and fell according to his mood. He was like a god in the sea, freely controlling all the sea. The horrifying aura firmly locked Yi Shiwen, displaying a combat style that was completely different from the transcendent realm. This was the horrifying strength belonging to the half-step law manifestation realm. Yi Shiwen, be careful. This Huang Weishan is very strong. Gao Xian was still a little worried and said, Huang Weishan's vigorous spiritual elemental energy swept out in circles. Then he suddenly slammed his palm down. It turned into a giant whale's tail. It was very terrifying. At this moment, he seemed to want to tear open a huge wound in the world. This palm directly pounced on Yi Shiwen's face, wanting to tear Yi Shiwen apart and smash him into meat paste. It could be said that he was truly enraged by Yi Shiwen. At this time, even the original number one enemy, Jian Wushuang, did not seem to be as terrible as Yi Shiwen in front of him. Very strong. Yi Shiwen sneered, it's just trash. The sword light in Yi Shiwen's hand instantly fell down. It evolved into thousands of sword lights in the sky and formed a sword net that fell down towards him. Boom! 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 In the sky, the sound of such crazy collisions could be heard everywhere. Palm winds and sword chi clashed with each other, causing shocking explosions. You want to block my iron palm with a sword light? Huang Weishan didn't hesitate at all. He stomped on a large area of blood energy, and his figure instantly rushed out like lightning. Then he slapped his palm down again. It was like a terrifying ghost shadow. It tore the sky in an instant and arrived in front of Yi Shiwen. Yi Shiwen did not make any superfluous movements. It was almost instinctive. He raised his hand and blasted out a shattered star fist. Boom! There was another sound that sounded like gold and iron colliding. Yi Shiwen raised his hand and blocked this palm. If the king of hell wants you to die at midnight, who can keep you alive until midnight? Yi Shiwen's eyes were cold. You want to come after me? You have already run out of luck. Unfortunately, you haven't realized it yet. Now, not to mention my wealth, even your wealth will fall into my hands. Yi Shiwen's figure suddenly drew a shadow, and a light sword appeared in his hand. He stabbed out almost instantly with lightning speed. After the sword light passed through for a few seconds, there was a sharp sound. The speed of the sound could not keep up with Yi Shiwen's current supersonic movement speed. The sword light in his hand could break all laws. It directly cut through the vast sky. How can he be so fast? Huang Weishan was suddenly shocked. Although Yi Shiwen's speed seemed to be quite good from the beginning, it was only good. He did not expect that it could be this fast. Just as he was panicking, Yi Shiwen's sword energy arrived again. It carried an unparalleled power and pierced through the air. The sword light was aimed at Huang Weishan's neck. Swish! A terrifying sound of breaking through the air fell into his ears. Fast! 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 Yi Shiwen's iron sword didn't seem to have any other characteristics except for its incomparably fast speed. No one had expected that a seemingly ordinary sword could produce such a terrifying power after reaching the pinnacle of speed. At this time, there seemed to be only one thought left in their minds. No matter what kind of martial arts it was, as long as it reached the extreme, it would possess great power. But even so, how many people could reach it? Obviously, Yi Shiwen could reach it. Oh my God, so fast. Saiku Yin looked as if he had seen a ghost. I'm not mistaken, right? How can someone's speed be so fast? Miao Cece said in disbelief. If it was someone a little slower, I'm afraid they would have been fooled by him. Amazing. I didn't expect such a terrifying master to be hidden in our team. We all misjudged him, Gao Xian said in admiration. In fact, from his point of view, they had indeed underestimated Yi Shiwen. Even from the moment Yi Shiwen began to show his talent. No matter how much they overestimated Yi Shiwen, they would eventually discover that they had still underestimated Yi Shiwen. He was like a bottomless abyss, no matter how much they underestimated him. He hasn't used his full strength yet. Jian Wushuang looked at Yi Shiwen. He was not as amazed as the others because he had seen Yi Shiwen's demon wings. He had not seen Yi Shiwen unfold his demon wings yet, so he naturally knew that Yi Shiwen had not used his full strength. Perhaps it was because hiding one's strength had become a habit deeply hidden in his nature. It seemed that he had not used his full strength because it was not necessary. However, he still had to admit that Yi Shiwen was many times more tyrannical than before. His growth in strength was even greater than his own. Back then, he could still fight with Yi Shiwen. Although that battle did not take place, he believed that he could still fight with Yi Shiwen. But now, even he had a headache with Huang Weishan and the others. In his hands, it seemed that they were not even qualified to use their full strength. At this time, only Yi Qianqian seemed to be the calmest. She looked at Yi Shiwen with her starry eyes, as if she wanted to see through him. She did not know where he came from and how he could be so powerful. Huang Weishan's face finally showed a bit of fear. The other two people, Hao Hongguang and Old Sun, wanted to rescue him, but it was too late. They did not expect that Huang Weishan would need their help. According to the information they received, it seemed that Yi Shiwen was the only one who was difficult to deal with. The others were not worth mentioning at all. Yi Shiwen's sword seemed to want to behead Huang Weishan on the spot. However, Huang Weishan wasn't someone to be trifled with. He directly shot out a shocking wave from his hand, forming an azure sky curtain that protected him. Yi Shiwen's sword light had already torn through the sky curtain when his sky curtain was just formed. Swish! Almost in an instant, Yi Shiwen's sword light, which was already extremely fast, directly tore the sky curtain apart. The sword light had already bombarded Huang Weishan's body. Bang! The sword light directly tore a huge wound on Huang Weishan's body, and a large amount of blood spurted out as if it was under great pressure. Like a volcanic eruption, Huang Weishan's body was blasted away and was almost torn apart by the sword light. If it wasn't for the fact that the sky curtain had blocked it and reduced a lot of its power, this sword would have split him in half on the spot. So powerful. Miao Cece had already expected that Yi Shiwen's attack would be effective. However, she was still shocked when she saw that Yi Shiwen's sword had seriously injured Huang Weishan. She opened her small mouth and wanted to say something. However, she only managed to say a few words in the end. At this time, whether it was Si Kuoyan or Gao Xian, both of them were dumbfounded and almost fainted. Yi Shiwen was actually this strong. Oh my God! Huang Weishan alone put us in a desperate situation. Now, he can't even withstand one move from him. This Yi Shiwen is too strong, Si Kuoyan said in disbelief. At this time, Huang Weishan, who had just been sent flying, broke free from Yi Shiwen's imposing aura and shouted, "Save me! You too! Why are you still not attacking? Do you want to wait for this kid to defeat you one by one and kill you one by one?" At this time, the two of them seemed to have been enlightened. Yes, if Yi Shiwen continued to kill like this, perhaps even the two of them wouldn't be able to avoid being killed by Yi Shiwen. This situation was absolutely not what they wanted to see. They were not stupid. They were just stunned by Yi Shiwen's decisive attack just now, so they did not react in time. At this time, the two of them finally attacked. A terrifying aura spread throughout the whole area in a flash. A terrifying power enveloped Yi Shiwen in a flash. Yi Shiwen was about to catch up to Huang Weishan and directly behead him. Hao Hongguang took the initiative to attack. A long blade appeared in his hand, and he chopped down in the air. The blade light shook the sky and directly pounced towards Yi Shiwen's face like a long dragon. In an instant, it had already arrived in front of Yi Shiwen. This attack revealed Hao Hongguang's strength. Not only was he not inferior to Huang Weishan, but he was also slightly more tyrannical than him. Chapter 1087. Yi Shiwen immediately raised his hand and transformed it into a golden palm. He directly grabbed the saber light and crushed it into pieces on the spot. The blade light raged on Yi Shiwen's palm, but it couldn't break the layer of divinity on Yi Shiwen's skin. It was directly suppressed and disappeared. But at this time, Old Sun, who had been silent all this time, finally launched his attack. It was a dagger, like a poisonous snake. It suddenly disappeared, then suddenly appeared in front of Yi Shiwen. It was silent, and almost as soon as it appeared, it went straight for Yi Shiwen's vital parts. Yi Shiwen was stunned. If he was dealing with someone else, he would have already succeeded. Unfortunately, his target was Yi Shiwen. Yi Shiwen's divine sense was always locked on him. Although he didn't use his full strength, it can be said that he was very careful. He didn't relax his vigilance even for a moment. The moment Old Sun disappeared, he was already very vigilant. When he reappeared, although his speed was very fast, he still couldn't escape Yi Shiwen's eyes. Too slow, too slow. Yi Shiwen roared and slashed out countless sword lights from his hand, which shrouded Old Sunday. Old Sun was suddenly shocked. Originally, he wanted to sneak attack Yi Shiwen, especially when Hao Hongguang attacked him. He wanted to sneak attack Yi Shiwen while Yi Shiwen's attention was on Hao Hongguang. On the other side, Hao Hongguang was also very familiar with Old Sun's fighting style. Although he hadn't cooperated with Old Sun before, he instantly made the same judgment. He wanted to attract Yi Shiwen's attention first, then let Old Sun give him a heavy blow. As long as Yi Shiwen was seriously injured or killed, the rest of the people wouldn't be a problem. But they didn't expect Yi Shiwen to be so terrifying. He was able to react in an instant and even launch a counterattack. Although Old Sun was surprised, his reaction wasn't slow by much. Jin Yuan instantly wrapped around his body, but Yi Shiwen's sword light actually cut through his body. His body turned semi-transparent, so Yi Shiwen's sword light couldn't kill him. Old Sun's body turned semi-transparent, so Yi Shiwen's sword light couldn't kill him. Old Sun took advantage of this time and once again rushed towards Yi Shiwen with his dagger. It seemed like he had already expected this attack. This was the innate magical power of his special bloodline. It was also the special ability of his clan. So, it was not something that others could explore. He had caught Yi Shiwen off guard. In an instant, the dagger had already pierced towards Yi Shiwen's face. Yi Shiwen was surprised, but he didn't panic. He had been fighting for so many years. So, what kind of danger hadn't he experienced? He raised his hand, and a big golden hand appeared in front of him to protect himself. Clang! The sound of gold and iron colliding resounded. The dagger made contact with Yi Shiwen's big hand, and sparks flew in all directions. There was no way to break the protection of divinity on Yi Shiwen's body. Yi Shiwen wanted to take advantage of the situation to attack, but Hao Hongguang had already rushed towards him. At this time, he naturally knew that Yi Shiwen's strength was far beyond their imagination. If he was alone, he would be easily killed by Yi Shiwen. Therefore, he needed Old Sun's cooperation. If the two of them joined forces, they might be able to contend against Yi Shiwen. At this time, they naturally needed to cooperate. Hao Hongguang directly slashed his blade towards Yi Shiwen to buy time for Old Sun to retreat. At the same time, he also had the same idea as Old Sunday. While Yi Shiwen's attention was attracted by Hao Hongguang, he wanted to injure Yi Shiwen with one move. Countless blade shadows appeared in the sky. No one knew how many blade shadows there were. Each blade shadow seemed to be able to destroy the world. It was a terrifying blade net. Hao Hongguang was already close to his full strength. This blade net was not only to cover Old Sun's retreat, it was also a full-strength attack. Yi Shiwen's sword suddenly tore through the vast sky. He didn't make any fancy movements. His sword directly tore through countless blade lights. Those blade lights collapsed as soon as they came into contact with Yi Shiwen's sword key. It seemed as if they couldn't withstand a single blow. Although his strength might not be weaker than Yi Shiwen's, at this moment, Yi Shiwen displayed the technique of one sword to break all things to the extreme. He directly tore apart the saber net, and then immediately slashed towards Hao Hongguang. Hao Hongguang was taken aback when he saw that Yi Shiwen's sword was so terrifying. He retreated again and again. However, Yi Shiwen wasn't willing to give him such an opportunity. He strode forward and chased after Hao Hongguang. The sword light was like a poisonous tongue. It was like a shadow following the body. Shwa! Another sound of a dagger piercing through the air. Old Sun's figure directly jumped out. He didn't give Yi Shiwen a chance to chase after him. Be careful, Gao Xian reminded in a loud voice. Everyone looked slightly worried that Yi Shiwen would be held up. The two of them had cooperated with each other back and forth, and had actually managed to hold up Yi Shiwen. If this continued, then the battle would probably turn into a tug-of-war. If it was just a normal situation, then it wouldn't be a big deal. However, Huang Weishan's injuries were gradually recovering, and he was already eyeing Yi Shiwen covetously. If this continued, then the situation would once again evolve into a disadvantageous situation. No, if this continues, Yi Shiwen won't be able to stop them. Wait for a while. We will directly intervene and hold one of them. We will give Yi Shiwen time to kill the other one. As long as Yi Shiwen kills one of them, the remaining one won't be a problem, Gao Xian said. Even in such an urgent situation, he was still calm and could think of the best way to fight. Everyone nodded. How could they not understand that at this time, Yi Shiwen was their biggest support? If Yi Shiwen also came out, then they would really be finished. It was just that the battle had changed too quickly just now, so they didn't find the opportunity to intervene. Even without Gao Xian's reminder, Yi Shiwen had already noticed Old Sun's sudden attack. Suddenly, he felt a burst of irritation in his heart. If this continued, then the battle would only drag on for a long time, and when Huang Weishan's injuries recovered, then the situation would become even more dangerous. Fuck off! Yi Shiwen shouted loudly, and his figure continued to fly towards Hao Hongguang. His other hand instantly gathered the power of countless stars and transformed it into a huge star. Then, it bombarded towards Old Sunday Bang. Old Sun didn't expect that Yi Shiwen would choose to fight head-on. His body immediately went into nothingness, but who knew that Yi Shiwen's fist power didn't penetrate his body at all? It seemed like Yi Shiwen controlled it and directly stayed in that area of his body. His body couldn't stay in nothingness for a long time. It only lasted for a moment. After that moment, he had to return to his original body. And at this time, Yi Shiwen's fist suddenly exploded, directly exploding in his body. Puff! Old Sun spat out a mouthful of blood. He was directly injured by Yi Shiwen's fist. He was good at assassination, but his combat ability was weak. So he was seriously injured. His eyes were still wide open. He couldn't believe that Yi Shiwen could find the only weakness of his body in just one attack. That was, the duration was too short and it couldn't be sustained. How could this person's combat intuition and combat talent be so terrifying? After punching Old Sun and eliminating Old Sun's interference, Yi Shiwen chased after Hao Hongguang. Among the three people present, only Hao Hongguang wasn't injured. So, Yi Shiwen wanted to get rid of him first. Hao Hongguang saw that Yi Shiwen didn't give up and rushed towards him. It seemed like he was enraged and shouted, "Bastard!" It seemed like his self-esteem had been provoked. The blade light in his hand directly chopped out a terrifying blade technique. It seemed like it could destroy the world. He wanted to kill Yi Shiwen in one fell swoop. Divinity instantly gushed out of Yi Shiwen's body and wrapped around his palm. His palm directly shot out the fire cloud's falling sky hand and grabbed towards the blade light in the sky. Rumble! This was another terrifying collision. Countless Nirvana blade lights were boiling inside that huge palm. Each blade light seemed to be capable of tearing the mountains and rivers apart. It contained the supreme will of Blade Tao. One could well imagine how terrifying these blade lights were. If an ordinary person were to be chopped by these blade lights, that person would have been chopped into a blood mist. Gao Xian and the others could feel the dreadfulness of these blade lights. If they were in Yi Shiwen's place, it would have been very difficult for them to withstand these blade lights. Even if they could withstand these blade lights, they would have been severely injured. However, Yi Shiwen's big hand was like a huge cage. Those blade lights couldn't break free from this cage. The blade chi that was capable of tearing the sky and the earth couldn't break free from Yi Shiwen's big hand. Yi Shiwen's big hand was clenching tighter and tighter. Those blade lights were annihilated little by little in his big hand. Hao Hongguang was still desperately resisting. At this time, the sweat drops on his forehead had grown to the size of soybeans and were sliding down in large handfuls. He was drenched in cold sweat. In fact, it seemed as if his entire body had been soaked in cold sweat. Yi Shiwen had given him too much pressure. Meanwhile, Yi Shiwen's long sword had already moved on the other side. He had taken advantage of the split second when Hao Hongguang was distracted to attack. Shua! The sword light danced, and a white waterfall appeared. Bang! That white waterfall bombarded on Hao Hongguang's body and sent him flying on the spot. He had sustained serious injuries in an instant. Chapter 1088. Just a moment ago, the intense battle had ended with Huang Weishan's team of 3 being seriously injured. Everyone was stunned on the spot. Not only Jian Wushuang's group, but also many other experts. At this time, when they saw the fighting scene, they also gathered around. However, they came a little late and did not see the beginning. They only saw the end of the fight. They only saw the scene of Yi Shiwen easily injuring several people. Looking at Yi Shiwen, who was like a devil god in the field, everyone felt their hair stand on end. They focused their eyes on Yi Shiwen's body. They wanted to see him clearly and remember his face. One must know that this person was an absolute malefic star who couldn't be provoked. As for Yi Shiwen's transcendent realm 9th level strength at this time, only a few people really cared. In their opinion, this was just Yi Shiwen pretending to be weak. No one really believed that Yi Shiwen was only at transcendent realm 9th level. Even if Yi Shiwen was only at transcendent realm 9th level, so what? Would they dare to look up to him? This was another ferocious god. In particular, some people recognized Huang Weishan and the other 2. Although the 3 of them acted separately, they were already at the peak of half-step law manifestation realm late. In the blood world, they were also slightly famous. Now, they were actually beaten like dogs by Yi Shiwen. Needless to say, everyone was shocked. They immediately raised Yi Shiwen's danger level to the highest. He was basically on the same level as those few law manifestation realm experts. Although Yi Shiwen's combat power was not comparable to those law manifestation realm experts, those law manifestation realm experts could easily crush them. However, those transcendence realm experts could easily crush them, and Yi Shiwen could also easily crush them. To them, whether it was Yi Shiwen or those transcendence realm experts, they were all opponents that were difficult to contend with. What was the difference? Without waiting for them, they saw that Yi Shiwen had chased them again. He was going to kill them all. Many people felt a chill in their hearts. It would be fine if Yi Shiwen was only powerful. However, Yi Shiwen seemed to be extremely ruthless. After severely injuring them, he still refused to let them go. A ruthless enemy was not scary. A powerful enemy was not scary either. However, someone with both conditions would be a terrifying opponent. At this time, everyone present had listed Yi Shiwen's group as the people they shouldn't offend. At this time, Yi Shiwen didn't know that he had become an existence that couldn't be offended in these people's hearts. He was on the same level as those law manifestation realm experts. However, he severely injured Huang Weishan and the other 2 in front of everyone. Wasn't it to deter these guys? It saved them from having any ideas on him. After spreading his reputation, he could save himself from unnecessary battles. Clang! The sword light in Yi Shiwen's hand directly tore through the vast sky and enveloped Huang Weishan, who had already recovered quite a bit. Huang Weishan was shocked to see this. He didn't expect that Yi Shiwen would actually let go of those 2 people and directly target him. He immediately wanted to escape, but he couldn't keep up with Yi Shiwen's sword light. It was directly torn into 2 halves by Yi Shiwen on the spot, and blood directly splashed out. Then, the Tianyuan mirror directly swept away all the blood. Then, Yi Shiwen immediately caught up with Old Sunday. Old Sun was seriously injured by Yi Shiwen, and there was a big hole in his chest. It can be said that he was heavily injured by Yi Shiwen. At this time, he was struggling to escape from Yi Shiwen's hands. But how could he escape? Yi Shiwen killed him effortlessly. After both of them were beheaded, Hao Hongguang, who had suffered serious injuries, couldn't do anything alone. So, he was also killed by Yi Shiwen. Not only did these people die, but their wealth also fell into Yi Shiwen's hands. These people were loners, but they also had a lot of wealth. Yi Shiwen had another 100 million bloodstones just from the bloodstones alone. It could be said that he had made a fortune again. These bloodstones were also sent into the mysterious space at all times. Then, they were transformed into various martial arts imprints and insights. Yi Shiwen's strength was improving at all times, and he was experiencing different changes at all times. In fact, Yi Shiwen had already learned to multitask, and he could constantly deduce the subtleties of various martial arts. It could be said that for him, even during normal times, the efficiency of cultivation was not much worse than closed-door cultivation. However, this kind of situation wasn't common. The reason was that he didn't have so many spirit crystals or bloodstones to squander. One shouldn't be fooled by the fact that he had a lot of bloodstones or spirit crystals. In fact, he would need hundreds of millions of spirit crystals or bloodstones to deduce a cultivation technique. So, this consumption was unprecedented. If it was just these scattered deductions, it was nothing, but if he had to be in the state of epiphany all the time, even if he was rich, there was no way to maintain it for a long time. Otherwise, according to the speed of his deduction and comprehension, it might not take long to surpass the law manifestation realm. As the saying goes, everything is decided by heaven. In this world, nothing is perfect. But even so, Yi Shiwen was already very satisfied. He could have today's achievements and could surpass these geniuses. In addition to other things, the biggest contribution was still this mysterious space. As long as this mysterious space existed, he had confidence no matter how terrifying the geniuses were. After a while, everyone came back to their senses. The battle was already over, especially those onlookers. At this time, they turned their heads and left one after another. They were afraid that Yi Shiwen would notice them and kill them in passing. "You're too powerful. We'll be able to walk sideways under your protection in the future." Miao Sisi shouted and rushed over to Yi Shiwen's side. She looked at Yi Shiwen with her eyes that were almost flashing with little stars. She was extremely excited. For her, Yi Shiwen was like a god who had descended to the world. At the moment when Huang Weishan appeared, she felt that she was suffocating. She even thought that even if she had to self-destruct, she would not let this pervert stain her. Who would have thought that these people would be utterly defeated by Yi Shiwen in the end? Not a single one of them was left alive. At this time, she was like a child, as if she had seen a fun toy. "Nonsense! How is it possible?" Gao Xian scolded. "We don't know how many dangers are hidden in here. Just those law manifestation realm masters alone are not something we can deal with." "Okay, I know," Miao Sisi said gloomily. With the example of Huang Weishan and the others, no one dared to have any ideas on this team. Everyone's journey was a lot smoother. They killed the blood beasts and blood demons along the way while advancing towards this underground world. The harvest along the way was quite fruitful. For a while, everyone was enjoying themselves and forgot their original purpose. Gradually, they began to pull further and further away from the law manifestation realm teams. By the time Yi Shiwen and the others reacted, they hurriedly caught up with them. After another half a month, everyone cleared a path to the core of the pocket world. The center of the pocket world turned out to be a palace. It should be the place where the Blood Alliance's high-level members resided. When Yi Shiwen and the others arrived, many teams had already arrived. However, those who could arrive here at this time were at least peak experts in half-step law manifestation realm initial. Those Transcendent Realm 9th level experts either died on the way or couldn't come at all. Just the Blood Demon Army and Blood Beast tribes on the way were in natural mode. For Yi Shiwen and the others, these Blood Beasts and Blood Beasts were just a wealth-gathering place. After a frenzied slaughter, they could obtain a massive amount of wealth. However, for these Transcendent Realm 9th level warriors, even if they were monstrous and could contend with half-step Law Manifestation Realm initial experts, they could only be defeated in the face of such a terrifying lineup. Basically, once they were surrounded, only death awaited them. They were both people with different fates. The difference in strength made them feel like they were in two different worlds. Inside the main hall, Yi Shiwen slashed away a mechanical beast that pounced over with a saber. He was only panting slightly, but at this moment, the others were not just panting, they were even in a rather sorry state. However, in contrast to their sorry state, the ground was littered with the broken pieces of the mechanical beasts. As soon as they entered the palace, they were immediately surrounded by a group of mechanical beasts. Compared to those blood beasts, these mechanical beasts were truly fearless. After all, they had no thoughts of their own. All the procedures were set in advance. Judging from the fact that Yi Shiwen and the others were attacked as soon as they entered, the preset procedure should be to attack all intruders. Yi Shiwen looked around and saw that the ground was full of broken pieces of mechanical beasts. It was definitely not only here but also in other places scattered all over the main hall. However, it was obvious that everyone was fighting in a hurry, and after escaping from these mechanical beasts, they went deeper into the main hall. Yi Shiwen and the others could be considered as the last batch. The rest of the people wouldn't be able to come here. Even if the experts from further areas arrived, they wouldn't be able to make it in time. All the good things would probably have already been looted. Let's go. We're already lagging behind. If we're any slower, the good stuff left behind by the Blood Alliance in this main hall won't be ours, Saika Yin said impatiently. He immediately took the lead and rushed out. The others also followed suit. Not long after they left, several blood-colored figures appeared at the palace's entrance. As one of them waved his hand, the entire bronze door of the entire palace began to slowly close. Chapter 1089. Outside a certain side hall, Yi Shiwen and the others were lying in ambush. Inside the side hall, dozens of mechanical beasts were lying motionlessly on the ground. These mechanical beasts were different from the blood fiends and blood fiends because they were not living creatures. Unless they were disturbed, they might lie on the ground and not move for 10,000 years. They relied on the blood core in their bodies to maintain the energy of their bodies. As long as the energy of the blood core was still there, then they might go berserk at any time. In the deeper part of the side hall, dozens of weapons were displayed. Although it was unknown how many years had passed, they still exuded bursts of aura belonging to Earth-level instruments. This row of more than a dozen weapons was actually an Earth-class celestial device. One could imagine how valuable it was. One should know that even many Transcendence Realm experts who were down and out didn't have an Earth-class celestial device. They would spend a lot of money to buy it, but couldn't get it. Normally, even if they had an Earth-class celestial device, they would choose to keep it for their own use. Very few would choose to sell it. The geniuses in the blood world were naturally different from ordinary people. Most of them had their own Earth-class celestial device. However, it was undeniable that these dozen celestial devices were already a great fortune. Once we make a move, we must do our best to defeat these mechanical beasts in one fell swoop, and then take those instruments away. Yi Shiwen squinted his eyes and said, "There are several groups of warriors nearby. If we are late in making a move, it may attract their attention." The rest of the people followed behind Yi Shiwen, and they also agreed with Yi Shiwen's opinion. Now, they were used to Yi Shiwen as the leader. Although Yi Shiwen didn't speak often, but once he had an opinion, it was easy to be taken seriously by everyone. Moreover, after this period of fighting, everyone finally figured out some rules. Although the entire palace was not big, there were a large number of experts wandering around. Therefore, if they could not quickly get rid of these mechanical beasts, it would most likely attract the covetous eyes of a large number of experts. Ordinary treasures might not be able to attract them, but these dozens of Earth-level instruments were definitely enough to make them go crazy. Therefore, Yi Shiwen and the others must quickly get rid of these mechanical beasts. Fortunately, these mechanical beasts were dead. As long as they did not approach these mechanical beasts within a certain distance, these mechanical beasts would not awaken. Therefore, they could calmly arrange the battle plan here. Yi Shiwen arranged for each person to be responsible for the rear of these mechanical beasts. "Do it!" Yi Shiwen shouted. Like a dragon, he took the lead and rushed out on the conveyance light, followed by the others. Even Yi Qianqian rushed out under Miao Cici's protection. Yi Qianqian had already entered the Sage Realm. She was still weak. However, she was no longer as powerless as before. Yi Shiwen and the others rushed inside, and almost in an instant, they triggered those mechanical beasts, which instantly resurrected them one after another. Those ancient mechanical beasts began to operate, and creak, creak sound lingered in the ears. Whoosh! Yi Shiwen brandished his sword and shot out tens of meters long sword light, directly chopping a mechanical beast that was just about to crawl up into pieces. These mechanical beasts probably didn't understand the situation and were chopped into pieces. At this time, the others also made their moves. Many of the mechanical beasts had just woken up when they were slashed into pieces. They didn't even have time to do anything. Even if there were one or two that had completed their recovery, they were no match for the group's encirclement. In a short while, they were completely killed. This time it was very smooth. With everyone's cooperation, they almost didn't alarm the outside world, and these mechanical beasts were cleaned up. There are 13 Earth-level celestial devices here. Each of us will get 2, and the remaining one will be given to Yi Shiwen. Do you have any objections? Gao Xian said after counting. I have no objections. No objections. All right. Everyone also nodded. They didn't have the slightest objection to this distribution. Yi Qianqian was also counted as a person by them, and Yi Shiwen himself didn't regard her as a slave. Since Yi Shiwen's attitude was like this, everyone naturally wouldn't regard her as such. Anyone who had contributed would get a share, and Yi Shiwen was the one who dealt with the most, so the extra ones would belong to Yi Shiwen. This wasn't the first time they dealt with things like this. Everyone was familiar with the process, and it had almost become a tacit rule. There was no value in saying anything, and everyone took away the celestial devices that they wanted. Yi Shiwen didn't act pretentiously, and directly took away 3 sword-type celestial devices. 2 of them were swords, and the other one was a long spear. The quality of the 2 swords was the lowest, only at the primary level of the Earth level, while the long spear's quality was slightly higher at the intermediate level of the Earth level. Unfortunately, Yi Shiwen didn't use a spear. Although for him, using any kind of martial arts wasn't the most important thing, but he was used to using sabers or swords, so he didn't have much research on spear techniques. At most, he only had some basic knowledge. If he wanted to use spear techniques to the level of sword techniques and saber techniques, then he didn't know how many spirit crystals he would have to spend. So, the moment he got the long spear, he had already decided to sell it. Although he didn't need it. But in fact, the Earth-level, middle-level celestial devices were still very popular in the outside world. Jie, so many Earth-level celestial devices, it seems that the heavens are on my side. Suddenly, a cold voice came from behind everyone, and everyone was startled. They turned their heads and saw a young man with a somewhat sinister face. They didn't know when he had appeared behind them, but his eyes were cold and greedy as he looked at the celestial devices that everyone had just put away. Xiao! A shrill sound pierced through the air. It was Sai Kuyin. He raised his hand and shot an arrow, intending to blast the young man's head. He didn't say anything. Who do you think you are? How dare you steal our things? Several people were ready to take action, and they wanted to teach this sinister young man a lesson. You don't know the meaning of death. The sinister young man sneered. When I, Wang Shi, want something, no one can refuse. I originally wanted to leave your corpses intact, but now it seems that I don't need to. As he spoke, the sinister young man, Wang Shi, sneered. He reached out with one hand and crushed the incoming arrow. Then, with a flick of his sleeve, he blasted Sai Kuyin with it. Puff! Sai Kuyin let out a blood-curdling scream as his body was sent flying, crashing into a pillar in the side hall. The impact left a human-shaped mark on the sturdy pillar. One could imagine just how much force had been exerted in that collision. Sai Kuyin, who was already at the peak of the half-step Transcendence realm and could step into the Transcendence realm at any time, was completely powerless in front of Wang Shi. This scene caused everyone to suck in a breath of cold air. Everyone looked at Yi Shiwen one after another. Perhaps even Yi Shiwen couldn't achieve such a terrifying combat power. Wang Shi, you are Wang Shi. At this time, Gao Xian suddenly said. Only then did everyone remember, and they immediately felt their scalps go numb. One by one, they remembered who this Wang Shi was. During this time, Wang Shi could be said to be very famous, but the reason for his fame was not so glorious. During this time, he could only become famous because he specialized in robbing others. He did not search for the wealth in the palace, but completely relied on robbing other warriors in the hall and robbing them of their wealth. If this was just an ordinary expert, it would be fine, but Wang Shi was actually a Transcendence Realm expert. One could imagine how big of a threat Wang Shi was to everyone. When a Transcendence Realm expert specialized in robbing these warriors, the success rate reached a terrifying level. Moreover, Wang Shi was ruthless and would never leave anyone alive. Therefore, when encountering him, there were very few who could escape. Only a few lucky ones could escape from him. Therefore, the King Snake could be said to be notorious. No one thought that they would actually attract this notorious poisonous snake. They were afraid that this time, it would be a disaster. Kiki, I'll give you a chance to kill yourselves or else I'll beat you to death. Choose! Wang Shi stood with his hands behind his back, as if he had already taken care of everyone. However, it made sense. If a Transcendence Realm expert had to be careful when facing warriors below the Transcendence Realm, it could only mean that this Transcendence Realm expert was too incompetent. When facing experts below the Transcendence Realm experts had an overwhelming advantage. This was not something a half-step Transcendence Realm expert could compare to. Of course, there were some monstrous geniuses who could challenge those of a higher level, but he himself was a monstrous genius. Who could surpass him? He had this confidence. At this time, he did not care about the reactions of the crowd. He seemed to be calculating how much wealth he could rob this time. This was the most important thing. These people before him were only people who were about to die. Yi Shiwen took a deep breath and said, "You guys take Psyche Yin and leave. I'll cover the rear." "How can we do that? How can we leave you behind?" Miao Sisi was the first to disagree. During this time, they had truly accepted Yi Shiwen and Psyche Yin as true partners, not just temporary collaborators. What's the use of you staying here? You can't even block one move from him. When the time comes, he'll still catch up to you. Other than dying for nothing, there's no use at all. Yi Shiwen said calmly. If there was anyone here who could hold Wang Shi back, it would undoubtedly be him. A Transcendence Realm expert could not be defeated with numbers alone. Previously, when facing Huang Weishan, if everyone joined forces, they might be able to resist and even injure him. However, when facing Wang Shi now, there was no chance of victory no matter how many people there were. You're tuning into the Warrior Lore YouTube channel. Don't forget to subscribe and join us on this journey to catch the most captivating stories.